Chapter 755. The person who walked out of the white light was wearing a snow-white robe. He was elegant and calm. This person looked like he was in his 20s. He wore a flawless white jade robe and a handkerchief. His face was like jade, and his eyes were like cold stars. He was handsome and had a celestial aura. He was like a real immortal who had descended to the mortal world. This person was none other than the palace master of Pear Blossom Palace, who had reached the level of Heaven Wizard. He was Jin Shan's teacher and the owner of the divine weapon, Tian Shuang's sword, Tian Kanzi. Tian Kanzi's arrival made the entire Pear Blossom Palace brighter. His cultivation had reached the level of Heaven Wizard. Everywhere he went, flowers bloomed, and all living things were revived. Master, you are finally back. I beg you to save him. Save him. Golden Silkworm knelt down in front of Tian Kanzi and cried out loud. She had been waiting for a long time, and finally, her teacher, Tian Kanzi, was back. Since the burning sky diagram was created by her teacher, he must have a way to heal Yi Yun's injuries. Don't worry, he won't die. Tian Kanzi extended his hand and helped the weeping Golden Silkworm up. He said, Am I not back now? Jin Shan wiped her tears and nodded while sobbing. Yi Yun greets Senior Tian Kanzi. Yi Yun, who was sitting on a rosewood chair, immediately stood up shakily and bowed to Tian Kanzi. You are heavily injured. You don't have to be so courteous, Tian Kanzi said to Yi Yun. Jin Shan held Yi Yun's arm to prevent Yi Yun from falling. Buzz Tian Kanzi's starry eyes shot out two rays of white light towards Yi Yun's head. The white light was dazzling and as bright as snow. Yi Yun was hit by the two rays of white light and instinctively raised his hand to block. Hua, under the illumination of the white light, Yi Yun's arms and head that were blocking the attack instantly became transparent. His arm was covered in white bones. Blood was flowing, and his tendons and bones could be seen. Inside his head, blood vessels were twining around his white brain. Seeing this, Golden Silkworm turned pale with fright. The two beams of white light that shot out from his master's eyes were actually able to see through Yi Yun's bones, blood, and meridians. Tian Kanzi looked down and continued to check Yi Yun's organs, limbs, and bones. In the blink of an eye, he had carefully examined Yi Yun from head to toe. His organs are failing, his sword aura is drying up, his meridians are damaged, and his lifespan is decreasing. If you didn't use your life essence to extend his life, even if he still had lifespan, his primordial spirit would have left his body and wandered the world due to the destruction of his physical body. Tian Kanzi put the two white lights back into his eyes and said, After hearing this, Jin Shan looked at Yi Yun with a pained expression, tears streaming down her face. Yi Yun smiled and looked at Jin Shan tenderly. Master, can he be saved? Jin Shan turned around and asked Tian Kanzi. If he can't be saved, why would I come back? Tian Kanzi asked Jin Shan back with a smile. Tian Kanzi's words made Jin Shan's eyes light up. Her master had a way to heal Yi Yun's injuries. This burning the heavens diagram was given to you by me, and you were injured because of Kan-er. How can I just sit by and watch you die? Tian Kanzi looked at Yi Yun with his eyes and smiled. Today, I will help you recover the 10 years of lifespan that you lost. Firstly, I will end this karma, and secondly, I will help Kan-er untie the knot in her heart for many years. However, from today onwards, you can't use the burning sky diagram on your back anymore. This time, I will erase the diagram from your body. But Senior, Yi Yun wanted to say something, but stopped. No buts. Did you forget what I told you when I passed down the burning sky diagram? Tian Kanzi stared into Yi Yun's eyes and asked. After Yi Yun heard this, he turned around and glanced at Jin Shan. He lowered his head and didn't say anything. Master, what is going on? Jin Shan was confused by the conversation between the two. She didn't understand. Don't ask what you shouldn't ask. You will naturally know in the future. Tian Kanzi turned around and said to Jin Shan, Go to the waterfall pool outside Pear Blossom Palace and give me a green stone. Remember, it has to be a green stone from where the waterfall fell. 1 inch is fine. Then, give me a bowl of clear water. Yes, master. Hearing Tian Kanzi say this, Jin-chan immediately used her movement technique and left. Although she didn't know why Tian Kanzi wanted these two things, she knew that they were needed to save Yi-yun. She left Pear Blossom Palace and immediately used spirit energy to protect her body. Then, she jumped into the pool. Amidst the rumbling sound of the water and the spinning water column, she found an inch-sized green stone from the bottom of the water column. Then, she used her spirit energy to rush out of the water and flew into Pear Blossom Palace. In less than 10 minutes, Golden Silkworm had already prepared the two things that Tian Kanzi had given her. She held the green stone in her left hand and a wooden bowl filled with clear water in her right hand. Then, she walked in front of Tian Kanzi. "Master, the things you want are ready," Jin-chan said respectfully to Tian Kanzi. Tian Kanzi, who was sitting opposite Yi-yun, said. He picked up the green stone from Jin-chan's palm and placed it into the wooden bowl filled with clear water in Jin-chan's hand. After placing the green stone, Tian Kanzi formed a sword with his right hand. Tong! A ball of golden flame ignited on Tian Kanzi's sword. The golden flame was bright and dazzling. Although it was only a few inches, it lit up the entire back garden with golden light. All the flowers and trees instantly turned into a bright golden color. It was very beautiful. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Tian Kanzi used the flaming sword to draw a mysterious pattern that even Jin-chan didn't recognize on the surface of the water in the wooden bowl. Wherever the sword finger passed, flames rose from the surface of the water and raged fiercely. The green stone at the bottom of the bowl slowly melted and turned into green smoke. It gradually dissolved in the clear water. As the golden flame in the wooden bowl gradually disappeared, the clear water instantly turned into a golden liquid that flashed with golden light. "Give it to him." Tian Kanzi withdrew his sword and said to Jin-chan. Jin-chan responded and quickly walked in front of Yi-yun. She brought the golden liquid in the wooden bowl to Yi-yun's mouth and carefully fed it to Yi-yun. Other than the taste of the golden liquid being slightly bitter, it was no different from normal clear water. Just as Yi-yun finished drinking the golden liquid in the wooden bowl, dozens of 7-colored lights appeared from the void above Yi-yun's head. They then wriggled down and slowly flew into Yi-yun's eyes, ears, nose, and mouth. After the 7-colored lights entered his body, Yi-yun's eyes instantly turned from dull to energetic. "Before I came, I went to the underworld and used 30 years of merit to exchange for 10 years of his life. From now on, his life has returned to normal," Tian Kanzi said as he picked up the pear blossom tea on the table and took a sip. 30 years of merit. After hearing her teacher's words, Jin-chan was shocked. Her teacher didn't use magic to extend Yi-yun's life. Instead, he used his 30 years of merit to exchange for it from the underworld. The dozens of 7-colored lights were the 10 years of life that her teacher exchanged from the underworld. After Yi-yun heard this, his face was filled with shock and disbelief. "Master!" Jin-chan's voice choked. With a plop, she knelt in front of Tian Kanzi while crying. As the saying goes, master and disciple are like father and son. Even though Tian Kanzi was usually very strict with her, his love for her was like that of a loving father. "Silly disciple, get up." Tian Kanzi put down the teacup and helped Jin-chan up. He smiled and said, "It's okay." Xiang Temple's old Qing even gave up his immortal position. "My 30 years of merit is nothing." "Senior, how can this disciple have to trouble Senior to use 30 years of merit?" Yin also knelt in front of Tian Kanzi and cried out, "Don't kneel. Get up." Tian Kanzi reached out and helped Yin up. "Even though your life has returned, your physical body is still the same. Don't force yourself." "Master, his injuries." Jin-chan wiped away her tears and asked, "I restored his life, but I didn't restore his physical body." Tian Kanzi said, "Someone else restored his physical body." "Someone else? Who?" Jin-chan was confused. "This person is none other than your beloved grandson, Eldritch Yi-yun Bufon." Tian Kanzi smiled and said to Yi-yun, Fan air." Yi said in shock. He is now the ruler of the demon realm. He possesses the power of the sky demon and the power of the blood demon. He can reconstruct a physical body with a drop of blood. He can even reconstruct a physical body, let alone restore a damaged body. Tian Kanzi smiled and said to Yi, even though he is Eldritch's reincarnation, he is your beloved grandson in this life. The two of you are fated to be together. Also, if it wasn't for the demon slaying conference, you wouldn't have become like this. I will do him a favor and let him restore your physical body to end this karma. With his help, restoring your physical body will only take the time to brew a cup of tea. After Jinshan heard this, she suddenly realized. She scolded herself for being foolish. Why didn't she think of Yi Fan's sky demon power? Senior means that Fan heir is coming? Yi Yun asked Tian Kanzi. He is not coming. He is already on his way. Tian Kanzi smiled. He will arrive in half an hour. Great. Once Fan heir arrives, you will be as good as new. Jinshan said excitedly to Yi Yun. Yi Yun also nodded happily. How could he not be happy that a person who was about to die suddenly recovered and could spend the rest of his life with the woman he loved? Your energy sea is empty. Even if you restore your physical body, you will need to cultivate sword energy again. Before you restore your cultivation, you must be extremely careful. Tian Kanzi warned Yi Yun. Junior will remember. Yi Yun said respectfully to Tian Kanzi. The matter is done. I should leave. I still have other things to do. Tian Kanzi slowly stood up and said to Jinshan, Mu Sun, Shui Ling, and the others, you have to remind them to cultivate diligently and do more good deeds. When I return, I will test what realm their cultivation has reached. You are the eldest senior sister. When I am not here, you have to take care of them. Understand? Disciple will remember. Jinshan said respectfully. I am leaving. As Tian Kanzi spoke, a bright white light screen appeared in front of him. Chapter 756. As for Yi Fan, he was carrying a large bundle of translucent candied haws. His entire journey was filled with clouds and lightning. In less than an hour, he had flown from the eastern sea to the sky above Pear Blossom Palace. He pressed down on the cloud and slowly descended. When he landed in the middle of the waterfall, he activated his movement technique and directly rushed into the waterfall. Buzz, the water-repelling light ball appeared again, and Yi Fan arrived at the entrance of Pear Blossom Palace, hidden in the waterfall. He had been here many times and was already familiar with this place. Originally, there was a water enchantment above the rumbling waterfall. However, because Yi Fan and his wife had a close relationship with Jinshan, and Xiao Zhao had a deep relationship with Yi Fan, Jinshan told Yi Fan how to enter the waterfall enchantment. Hiss! Hiss! After seeing Yi Fan, the two giant pythons guarding the entrance of Pear Blossom Palace, one red and one green, immediately approached vigilantly. Compared to the last time, Yi Fan's evil aura did not decrease. Instead, there was an additional overbearing evil aura. The intensity and power of this evil aura was not any weaker than the evil aura. Although the two giant pythons were of a different species, they had cultivated for more than 100 years. In addition, snakes had sharp senses, so the moment Yi Fan entered the waterfall, they sensed the evil aura on Yi Fan's body. They came in front of Yi Fan and slithered around Yi Fan while sticking out their tongues. Wu, Baihu Xiao Zhao jumped down from Yi Fan's shoulder and chatted amiably with the two giant pythons in the beast language. Xiao Hong, Xiao Chui, where's Granny? Yi Fan asked the two giant pythons in front of him. He was thinking about his beloved wife, Fujiwara no Chiko, and his grandfather, Yi Yun, so he didn't notice the difference between the two pythons. The two giant pythons looked at each other and then at the cave door behind them. They signaled to Yi Fan that Jinshan was in the cave. Although Yi Fan had a strong murderous aura, he was still the original Yi Fan. He was one of the closest people to Jinshan and Xiao Zhao. He was a friend, not an enemy. Seeing this, Yi Fan frowned. The last time he came to Pear Blossom Palace, Jinshan and his grandfather, Yi Yun, had come out early to pick him up. This time, they did not come out to greet him. Yi Fan felt a little uneasy. Could it be that Grandpa's injuries had worsened? It must be. Although Chico's soul was incomplete and she was a little crazy, her body was definitely fine. The one with the problem must be Grandpa, Yian. And in order to take care of Grandpa, Jinshan did not come out to greet him. Yifan thought to himself. He pulled out 2 sticks of candied haws from the bamboo pole and gave them to the 2 giant pythons, one red and one green. Then, he waved at the stone door in front of him. Asterisk rumble. Asterisk the stone door, which weighed 1,000 pounds, opened with a loud bang. Yifan quickly walked in, Baihu following closely behind. Grandpa! Grandpa! Yifan quickly walked into Pear Blossom Palace while shouting loudly for Yiyan. Fanner, don't shout. I'm here, cough, cough, cough. Along with an old voice from afar, a white-haired old man shakily walked out from an exquisite pear wood hut opposite of them. The person supporting the old man was none other than Granny Golden Silkworm. The old man in front of him had a face full of wrinkles and white hair. He walked unsteadily, and his voice was extremely old. Could this person be Grandpa Yian? Grandpa! When he saw the loving gaze in the old man's eyes, Yifan suddenly cried out involuntarily. This person was really Yian. Grandpa, why are you? Yifan walked in front of Yian and put down the candied haws. Then, he supported Yian and said with tears in his eyes, the last time he left, Yian was not so old. Now that he had not seen him for a few days, he had actually aged to this extent. It's okay. You won't die. You won't die. Cough, cough, cough. Yian said to Yifan with a smile while coughing. Jinshan, who was supporting Yian, stared at Yifan with her beautiful eyes and frowned slightly. Yifan's innate killing intent shocked her. She could not believe it. She really wanted to ask Yifan what was going on. However, because Yian was present, she did not ask. She could not let Yian know about this, because she did not want Yian to worry. Fan-air, you came at the right time. Whether this old thing can live or not depends on you. Jinshan said to Yifan calmly. Granny, what do you mean by this? Yifan asked Jinshan with tears in his eyes. Jinshan told Yifan how Tian Kanzi extended Yiyun's life, and how he used the power of the Sky Demon to reforge Yiyun's body. After Yifan heard this, he cried tears of joy. Chapter 757. Buzz in the secret chamber of Pear Blossom Palace. Yifan activated the power of the heavenly demon and pressed one hand on Yiyun's Baihui acupoint. Red light burst out from his palm, and it was as red as blood. The resplendent blood light illuminated the entire secret chamber in a blood-red color. Yiyan sat cross-legged with his eyes closed. His eyes were focused on his nose, and his nose was focused on his heart. His mind was clear of distracting thoughts. Whoosh! Countless thin red lights poured down from Yifan's palm and entered Yiyun's body through the Baihui acupoint on his head. Baihui, Shunting, Tiantu, Canopy. Under the control of Yifan's will, the domineering heavenly demon energy flowed through Yiyun's 8 extraordinary meridians and various acupoints. Gradually, it spread to his organs and eventually all the meridians in his body. The moment the power of the heavenly demon entered his body, all of Yiyun's failing organs and aging flesh were instantly nourished and repaired. Swoosh! The white hair on Yiyun's head started to turn from white to black. The wrinkles on his face started to disappear, and the protruding blood vessels on his hands started to disappear. The muscles that had lost their elasticity also started to regain their vitality. Everywhere the red light passed, the aged Yiyun seemed to have been reborn and was revitalized. The handsome Buffon, who had sharp eyebrows, an eagle nose, a beard, and hair, looked even younger than before. He, who was over 50 years old, now looked at most 30 years old. Yifan used the power of the heavenly demon to strengthen Yiyun's body to the greatest extent. At this moment, even if a steel knife slashed Yiyun's body, it would only leave a white mark. After reforging Yiyun's body, Yifan slowly retracted the power of the heavenly demon into his body. The red light in the room gradually dissipated and returned to normal. Yiyan slowly opened his eyes. He slowly placed his hands in front of his eyes filled with shock. His hands were full of elasticity, his muscles were relaxed to a certain degree, his strength was strong, and his martial prowess was strong. Yi Fan's heavenly demon power really had the ability to recreate a person's body with just a drop of blood. In less than the time it took to brew a cup of tea, it was as if he had been reborn. Yi Yun was shocked and inexplicably excited. He stood up from the ground and walked to the stone table beside him. He picked up a bronze mirror on the table and observed his own appearance. His reflection in the bronze mirror was extraordinarily handsome, just like how he was 20 years ago. Yi Yun couldn't believe it. He reached out and touched his face gently. "How is it, Grandpa? Are you satisfied?" Yi Fan looked at the inexplicably shocked Yi Yun and asked with a smile, "If you're not satisfied, I will cast a spell to make you younger. However, I am afraid that Father will be shocked when he sees you." "Don't talk about your father. Even I was shocked by myself," Yi Yun said to Yi Fan as he looked at himself in the bronze mirror. "Your heavenly demon power is truly powerful. It has the ability to recreate a person's flesh and blood, allowing them to be reborn. Unfortunately, I am unable to restore your cultivation level now," said Yi Fan. "The sword chi in your body will probably have to be cultivated anew." "It doesn't matter." Yi Yun turned his head and smiled at Yi Fan. "With my current body, I will be able to recover to my original state in, at most, 3 months. I might even be better than before." Sword chi dermic formulations were completely different from other dermic formulations. Although it was called chi like spirit chi and yuan chi, sword chi dermic formulations focused more on one's mental state. As the saying went, there was no sword in the hand, but there was a sword in the heart. This was the essence of the cultivation of sword chi dermic formulations. The mantra that Yi Feng had imparted to Yi Yun was the essence of a Sword Immortal's cultivation. It had completely opened Yi Yun's horizons and subverted Yi Yun's understanding of sword chi. It had allowed him to break through the shackles of his past cultivation of sword chi. With the essence of this dermic formulation, it would not be difficult for Yi Yun to return to his peak state in 3 months. "That's even better," Yi Fan said happily when he heard Yi Yun's words. Yi Yun smiled and turned his head to look at himself in the bronze mirror. "You and Granny are really a match made in heaven. You are a match made in heaven." Yi Fan looked at Yi Yun's appearance and said with a smile, "When we go out later, Granny will definitely be grinning from ear to ear. This time, Granny will not call you old man. What's the point of waiting? Let's go now," Yi Yun said as he put down the bronze mirror in his hand. He straightened his clothes, pushed open the stone door, and quickly walked out. He wanted to give Jin Chan a surprise. Seeing this, Yi Fan shook his head with a smile and followed him out. Outside the secret chamber, a pink-dressed Jin Chan stood anxiously under the pear tree with Baihu in her arms. She kept looking back at the door of the secret chamber. Yi Fan's heavenly demon power was indeed very powerful, but after all, Yi Yun was injured by the Burning Heavens diagram and had overdrawn 10 years of his life. Moreover, he had used it when he was seriously injured. Although Yi Fan's heavenly demon power could regenerate flesh and blood with a drop of blood, Yi Fan was still relatively young and did not have much experience in healing. She was afraid that Yi Fan would not control himself. Not only would he not be able to heal Yi Yun, but it would also be counterproductive. In addition, the evil aura on Yi Fan's body was blazing, and for some reason, he was filled with a domineering evil aura. She was not sure if Yi Yun would be contaminated by the evil aura on Yi Fan's body during the healing process. However, her worries were unnecessary. Yi Fan had long since mastered the use of the heavenly demonic power to his heart's content. More than one person had been healed by the heavenly demon power. Madam of Bones, Akatsuki, demonic Taoist Li Si, the killer whale leader, and the strange dragon with a dragon head and snake body were all healed by him. Healing Yi Yun this time was nothing. As for the evil aura on Yi Fan's body, it was still temporarily suppressed by the Shantian secret technique and the proud moon heavenly scripture. Moreover, the 2 seals were still there, so Yi Fan would be fine for the time being. Rumble. Just as Jin Chan was letting her imagination run wild, the heavy door of the secret room was opened. Yi Yun, who was dressed in a white robe, walked out from inside. Following closely behind was Yi Fan, who was dressed in a black robe. When she saw Yi Yun's transformation, Jin Chan's beautiful eyes widened. She reached out her hand to cover her mouth and was stunned on the spot. Her face was filled with disbelief. The current Yi Yun was not as simple as recovering as before. He now looked 20 years younger than before. Master Tian Kanzi was right. Yi Fan's heavenly demon power could indeed save Yi Yun. What, don't you recognize me? Yi Yun walked in front of the stunned Jin Chan and asked with a smile. When Yi Yun asked this question, Jin Chan's eyes turned red. Her beloved man was finally saved. She finally didn't have to watch Yi Yun leave this world. 2 streams of hot tears rolled down Jin Chan's eyes. She didn't say anything and directly put down Bai Hu. Then, she tightly hugged Yi Yun's waist and leaned her head on Yi Yun's chest. Although she was crying, she still had a smile on her face. She was crying tears of joy. Yi Yun's right hand tightly hugged Jin Chan's shoulder, while his left hand gently stroked Jin Chan's long hair. Seeing Jin Chan and his grandfather's loving appearance, Yi Fan was filled with emotions. The two of them had wasted half of their lives. Now, they could finally be reunited. Yi Fan smiled and took the bamboo pole full of sugar-coated haws. He used a movement technique and disappeared into thin air. He could now go and see his wife with peace of mind. Whoosh! Yi Fan appeared on the crown of a large pear tree in the back garden. He bent down and looked down through the dense branches of the pear tree. Directly under the pear tree, Fujiwara Chico, who was dressed in white and had a beautiful face, was lying in front of the table with her hands behind her head. Her clear eyes flashed as she looked straight at the pair of festive porcelain dolls placed in front of her. Yi Fan had left the pair of porcelain dolls for her before he left. "You're lying." Fujiwara no Chico, lying on the table, said to the porcelain dolls. "You said you would come back to see me, but you still haven't come. You even said you would bring me good food. Liar, liar." Fujiwara no Chico said and flicked the forehead of the groom in the porcelain doll. The groom was wearing a red-winged hat and a large red flower on his chest. He had a happy smile on his face. Still smiling? Fujiwara no Chico reached out to pinch the groom's ear. "Ouch, it hurts." Yi Fan in the crown of the tree urged his spiritual energy and applied it to the porcelain dolls below. He also used his changed voice to speak through the spiritual energy. This way, it was as if the porcelain dolls were talking. He was teasing Fujiwara no Chico. Sure enough, after Fujiwara no Chico heard the porcelain dolls cry out in pain, she immediately pulled her hand back from the porcelain groom's ear as if she had been electrocuted. She stood up from the wooden stump and took a few steps back. Her beautiful face turned pale. Obviously, she was frightened by this sudden scene. "You can talk?" Fujiwara no Chico stuttered as she asked the porcelain groom on the table. "That's right." Yi Fan continued to use the spiritual energy wrapped around the porcelain dolls to speak. You really can talk." Fujiwara no Chico swallowed her saliva and mustered up her courage to ask, "Why are you pinching my ear?" Yi Fan asked with a smile. I'm not pinching you." Fujiwara no Chico saw that the porcelain dolls were questioning her. She quickly waved her hand and said innocently, I was pinching my husband." "Oh no, She was stunned and didn't know how to explain. She was so anxious that her face turned red. Ha ha ha. Standing in the crown of the tree, Yi Fan couldn't help but laugh at Fujiwara no Chico's appearance. He couldn't help but laugh. "Who's there?" When Fujiwara no Chico heard that there was someone in the tree above her, she immediately used her movement technique. She jumped up from the ground and rushed into the crown of the tree. In the blink of an eye, Fujiwara no Chico was standing in front of Yi Fan. The two of them were less than a palm's distance apart. When she saw that the person hiding in the tree was Yi Fan, Fujiwara no Chico was instantly stunned. Yi Fan could no longer hold himself back when he saw his beloved wife, whom he had been thinking about day and night, right in front of him. He stuck the candied haws in his hand into the bushes. Then, he hugged Fujiwara no Chico's waist and kissed Fujiwara no Chiko's cherry lips heavily. Oh! Fujiwara no Chiko, who was still in a daze, was kissed by Yifan. Her beautiful eyes widened and her heart raced. She didn't know what to do. Yifan, who didn't stop kissing her passionately, lightly tiptoed and gently flew out of the tall tree with Fujiwara and no Chiko in his arms. Along with the pear petals that filled the sky, they slowly fell down. After landing, Yifan hugged Fujiwara no Chiko even tighter. Oh! Fujiwara no Chiko, who was being kissed, widened her eyes. Her small fist kept hitting Yifan's shoulder. Seeing that Fujiwara no Chiko was anxious, Yifan stopped. What are you doing? Fujiwara no Chiko, whose heart was beating nonstop, asked Yifan with a red face. Chapter 758. If you miss me, you have to bite my tongue. Fujiwara no Chiko blushed as her chest heaved up and down violently. She opened her mouth and asked Yifan. Her soul was not complete, and her intelligence was only that of a 4 or 5-year-old child. Of course, she did not know why Yifan was doing this to her. However, although her intelligence was very low, the feeling coming from her body was real. She did not understand why Yifan would bite her, but she enjoyed the feeling coming from her body very much. Her heart was beating wildly. Bite you? Yifan was stunned when he heard this, and then he shook his head and smiled bitterly. Fujiwara no Chiko had no memory, and her soul was not complete. Naturally, she did not know about the relationship between husband and wife. Silly girl, I was not biting you. I was just missing you. Come, see what delicious food I brought for you this time. As Yifan spoke, he stretched out his hand in the air above his head. Whoosh! The green bamboo pole in the crown of the pear tree, which was filled with candied haws, suddenly flew into Yifan's hand. Wow! So many candied haws! When Fujiwara no Chiko saw the crystal-clear, bright red candied haws in Yifan's hand, she immediately clapped her hands excitedly. I made these for you personally. Come try it. Yifan pulled out a stick of candied haws from the straw curtain wrapped around the bamboo pole and handed it to Fujiwara no Chiko. Fujiwara no Chiko answered as she reached out to take the candied haws. She could not wait to take a bite of it. Is it sweet? Yifan asked as he stroked Fujiwara no Chiko's long hair. It's sweet. Fujiwara no Chiko said happily. Here, these are all for you. You can eat them slowly in the future. Eat 1 stick a day. After you finish eating, I will cook for you. Yifan handed the bamboo stick to Fujiwara no Chiko. Husband, you're so kind. Fujiwara no Chiko excitedly took the dozens of bright red sticks of sugar-coated haws and said with shining eyes. Fujiwara no Chiko's beautiful face was illuminated by the 5-colored spiritual energy wrapped around the sugar-coated haws, making her look like a dream. Here, have a bite too. Fujiwara no Chiko said with a smile as she placed the candied haws in front of Yifan's mouth. Yifan opened his mouth and took a bite. The tonghulu in his mouth was just like his current mood, sweet and sour. Chiko, I will definitely make you better. Looking at his beloved wife in front of him, Yifan said firmly with red eyes. Husband, don't cry. Be good. Seeing Yifan crying, Fujiwara no Chiko immediately wiped away Yifan's tears with her sleeve. Yifan held Fujiwara no Chiko's hand and placed it on his face, not letting go for a long time. Husband, is it because the thing you are looking for is very difficult to find? Is that why you are crying? Fujiwara no Chiko asked Yifan. Yifan smiled through his tears and nodded. Then I will go with you. Call Granny. We will look for it together. Fujiwara no Chiko comforted Yifan. Yifan slowly shook his head. As long as you are obedient here, husband can look for the thing in peace. Yifan kissed Fujiwara no Chiko's hand and said with tears, I will be obedient. Granny praised me for being sensible. Fujiwara no Chiko comforted Yifan. Husband, don't cry, okay? And don't cry, don't cry. Yifan wiped his tears with his sleeve and said with a smile, Are you in a hurry to leave today? Fujiwara no Chiko asked Yifan. I can accompany you for a while today, but I have to leave tomorrow at the latest. Yi Fan held Fujiwara no Chico's hand and said with heartache, "You're not leaving today? Is that true?" Fujiwara no Chico said with surprise, "Silly girl, when have I ever lied to you?" Yi Fan said and hugged Fujiwara no Chico in his arms. During this day, Yi Fan accompanied Fujiwara no Chico and did not leave her side. He accompanied Fujiwara no Chico to the Miaojiang area outside of Pear Blossom Palace and went on a scenic tour. He carried her and flew high above the clouds, overlooking the sea of clouds. He even held her hand and went underwater, roaming the underwater world and enjoying the beautiful scenery. It was rare for him to have time to accompany his beloved wife, so he naturally had to do his best to make Fujiwara no Chico happy. Fujiwara no Chico was cheering like a child. She looked here and there and was indescribably excited. The two of them played for an entire day and only flew back to Pear Blossom Palace in the evening. After returning to Pear Blossom Palace, the indescribably excited Fujiwara no Chico was still not sleepy. She leaned on Yi Fan's arms and let Yi Fan tell her stories. Yi Fan racked his brains and told her some of the myths and legends that Yi Kong had told him when he was young. Something like Chun Xiang saving his mother, Ho Yi shooting the sun, Chong Yi flying to the moon, Yu Gong moving the mountains. Perhaps she was tired from playing, or perhaps the stories that Yi Fan told were too dry and boring. After the time it took for half an incense stick to burn, Fujiwara no Chico, who was lying in Yi Fan's arms, fell asleep. She had a smile on her face, and her hand was still tightly holding Yi Fan's hand. Yi Fan gently carried Fujiwara no Chico and walked into the Rosewood building, gently placing her on the bed. He tucked Fujiwara no Chico's messy hair behind her ears and covered her with a blanket. Then, he gently kissed Fujiwara no Chico's forehead. After doing all this, Yi Fan gritted his teeth and turned to leave. He closed the wooden door and flew to the front hall of Pear Blossom Palace. In the front hall, Yi Yun and Jin Chan were sitting on the wooden couch facing each other, quietly drinking their pear blossom tea. Baihu Xiao Zhao was quietly lying in Jin Chan's arms. Her gaze was deep and distant, as if she was thinking about something. Jin Chan had a reluctant look on her face, while Yi Yun's eyes were filled with tenderness. The two of them understood that they would have to part for the time being again. Yi Yun had already told Jin Chan about his promise to build the Copper Men army for the Crown Prince. Back then, when he was seriously injured and his life was in danger, it was only right and proper for him to stay in Pear Blossom Palace to recuperate. But now that his lifespan had been restored and his serious injuries healed, it was inexcusable for him to continue staying here. This matter involved the country and the safety of the common people. He definitely could not indulge in his tenderness because of his personal feelings. Creak. Yi Fan pushed open the door and entered, his eyes red. How could he not want to stay here to accompany his beloved wife? Grandfather, mother-in-law, Yi Fan greeted the two of them. "Where's Chico?" Jin Chan asked Yi Fan. "Chico is asleep. I came here to bid farewell to the two elders," Yi Fan said to the two of them. "You're leaving now?" Jin Chan anxiously asked Yi Fan. "I'm a little worried about the East Sea, so I want to hurry back as soon as possible," Yi Fan replied. He had been here for an entire day, so it was time to go back. To him, finding the 9 cauldrons was more important than anything else. "If you're leaving, take me with you and send me to the ancestral residence," Yi Yun said to Yi Fan. After Golden Silkworm heard this, it pursed its lips and did not speak. "Grandfather, you're going back to the ancestral residence?" Yi Fan asked Yi Yun. "My injuries have already healed, so it's time for me to go back and prepare for the Copper Men army. If I don't go back, your father and Yi Chun alone won't be able to create the Copper Men army." Hearing this, Yi Fan frowned and nodded. Yi Yun was right. Although Yi Chun could also create Copper Men, in terms of casting materials, he could not reach the level of resisting the Black Feather Ninjas. And Yi Yun was the head of the Yi family. He had cultivated the secret manual, weapon forging manual, and had extremely high attainments in casting materials and forging weapons. One had to know that not only were the Black Feather ninjas ferocious, but the weapons in their hands were also extraordinary. If the Coppermen's materials were not strengthened, they would not be able to withstand the Black Feather ninjas' top-notch sabers. In other words, the matter of the Coppermen army could be lost to anyone, but Yi Yun could not be lost. After a moment of reluctance, Yi Fan and Yi Yun bid farewell to the teary-eyed Jinshan and left Pear Blossom Palace. Yi Fan used his spirit energy to protect Yi Yun's body and carried Baihu on his shoulder. Then he used the cloud riding technique and urged the auspicious clouds to slowly float off the ground and straight into the sky. At this time, it was already nighttime. The stars in the sky were as vast as the sea. Yi Yun raised his head to look at the starry sky with a face full of shock. In his heart, he could not help but sigh at his grandson's heaven-defying abilities. 2 years ago, this grandson of his had still been an ordinary person. Now, in less than 2 years, Yi Fan had transformed from an inexperienced brat into the Devil Realm's monarch with a heaven-defying cultivation base that was known throughout the world. As the saying goes, the affairs of the world are unpredictable. It was indeed true. What are you thinking about, grandfather? Yi Fan saw that Yi Yun did not speak and immediately turned his head to ask. I'm thinking about you from a few years ago, Yi Yun said to Yi Fan with a smile. At that time, you were still an inexperienced brat. Every day, you would think about my snow thread sword. Now, with the passage of time, you have already cultivated to the level of an immortal and can fly through the sky and earth. Yes, in less than 2 years, too many things have happened. Yi Fan turned his head to look forward and said emotionally, sometimes I even wonder if all of this is just a dream. When I wake up, will Chico and I still be in the Lingyun cave, living a peaceful and contented life? Will Xiao Zhao still be the same as before? Exceptionally intelligent, radiant, gentle, virtuous, and considerate. After hearing Yi Fan's words, Baihu, who was lying on Yi Fan's shoulder, raised her head to look at the sea of stars in the distance, her eyes sparkling. Sigh. Yi Yun patted Yi Fan's shoulder and sighed deeply. This grandson of his had experienced too much. After a long time, Yi Fan said to Yi Yun, Grandfather, there's something I need to tell you. What is it? Yi Yun asked. Yi Fan roughly told Yi Yun about how he had helped Matsumoto Takeyoshi obtain the meteor metal. After hearing this, Yi Yun was greatly shocked. He was shocked at Yi Fan's extraordinary ability to actually catch the meteor metal that had fallen from the sky and weighed more than 10,000 jin. He was even more shocked that Yi Fan had actually helped Matsumoto Takeyoshi obtain the meteor metal that had fallen from the sky and helped Matsumoto Takeyoshi forge a top-grade saber. I could only do that. I had no other choice, Yi Fan said, explaining to Yi Yun that Matsumoto Takeyoshi had suspected him and set a trap to test him. Yi Yun's brows were tightly furrowed, his face filled with worry. He understood Yi Fan's feelings, because if it had been Jinshan's soul that had been held in the evil cauldron, he would probably have done the same. But I also left a backup plan. Whatever Matsumoto Takeyoshi obtained, the Great Ming can also obtain, Yi Fan said to Yi Yun, whose brows were tightly furrowed. The Great Ming can also obtain? What do we get? Yi Yun asked Yi Fan with a puzzled expression. The meteor metal from the meteor metal. Yi Fan smiled. The meteor metal from the meteor metal? Yi Yun became more and more confused. Didn't you already give the meteor metal to Matsumoto Takeyoshi? Matsumoto Takeyoshi did obtain the meteor metal, but he only obtained a portion of it. Yi Fan said to Yi Yun, when I was transporting the meteor metal, I secretly removed the meteor metal with the densest iron content. It was about 20,000 jin, and I hid it in a place with no one around. This way, we can forge a divine weapon that is not inferior to Sato's. Chapter 759. In less than half an hour, Yi Fan's auspicious clouds arrived above the ancestral home on Eagle Grief Peak. Grandfather, I'm going to pay a visit to Yi Ancestor and then return to the East China Sea. Yi Fan said to Yin, Matsumoto Takeyoshi has a lot of spies in the Great Ming Dynasty. I'm afraid there are also people around the Yi clan's ancestral home. This time, I won't go back to the ancestral home so as not to arouse Matsumoto Takeyoshi's suspicions. Please tell my father that this child is unfilial and won't be able to visit him this time. As for that piece of fire meteor iron, I will secretly send it to the ancestral home by tomorrow night at the latest. Below him was the top of Eagle Grief Peak, where Demon Blade Yi Ming resided. Yi Ming was the most senior elder in the Yi clan and was also the great benefactor of the Yi clan. He had repeatedly helped Yi Fan out of danger. When Yi Fan passed by this place, no matter how busy he was, he still had to pay a visit. He absolutely did not dare to be rude. You can focus on your work and don't worry about other things. As for your father, I will tell him. Yi Yun said to Yi Fan, after you see Yi Ancestor, please say hello to him for me. Yi Fan nodded and said, stand firm. I will send you to the ancestral home now. As Yi Fan spoke, he waved his sleeve at the auspicious clouds under his feet. Whoosh! The large group of auspicious clouds was instantly split into two by Yi Fan's wave. The auspicious clouds carrying Yi Yun slowly left Yi Fan and slowly drifted toward the Yi clan's ancestral home on the mountainside of Eagle Grief Peak. Grandfather, take care. Yi Fan waved goodbye to Yi Yun. Above the clouds, Yi Yun nodded at Yi Fan and gradually drifted away. After bidding farewell to Yi Yun, Yi Fan pushed aside the auspicious clouds beneath his feet and descended towards the top of Eagle's Sorrow Peak. Yi Ming, who was dressed in a black robe embroidered with golden threads, stood at the door of the wooden hut on the Eagle Grief Peak with his hands behind his back. He raised his head and looked at Yi Fan, who was slowly descending from the clouds. His face was calm, and his eyes were as calm as water. After landing, Yi Fan knelt before Yi Ming and kowtowed. Greetings, Yi Ancestor. You are now the king of the Devil World. I can't accept that. Get up. Yi Ming smiled and said to Yi Fan. Yi Fan stood up. It is true that you are a member of the Yi family, but you are also an eldritch. There is no need for you to be so respectful to me in the future. I have never treated you as a junior. Yi Ming said, whether I am the king of the Devil World or an eldritch, I will always be a junior in front of you. Yi Fan respectfully said to Yi Ming. Yi Fan didn't only admire Yi Ming for his supreme cultivation. Yi Ming's character, personality, and style of doing things made Yi Fan feel deep respect for him. This person was straightforward in his speech, and his actions were clean and efficient. He clearly distinguished between public and private matters and stood aloof from worldly affairs. No one could stop him from doing what he wanted to do. No one could force him to do what he didn't want to do. One word, straightforward. Yi Ming smiled and didn't say anything. This time, this junior came from Pear Blossom Palace and passed by Senior's residence. That's why I set off my cloud and came to pay my respects to Senior. Yi Fan cupped his hands and said to Yi Ming, I know everything about you. Yi Ming said, you have obtained 5 of the 9 cauldrons. The day of saving your wife's true soul is just around the corner. Yi Fan revealed a happy expression after hearing this. Yi Ming's cultivation was extremely high and he could predict the future. Since he said so, he must be right. Don't be happy too early. Yi Ming saw Yi Fan's happy expression and immediately changed the topic. He said, although you have obtained 5 cauldrons, the evil energy is overflowing and the devil spirit is blazing. Recently, you also obtained the innate baleful energy from the fire meteor, causing the 3 evil spirits to return to your body. In time, your consciousness will become chaotic and your spirit energy will go berserk. At that time, even if you find all 9 cauldrons, your mind won't be clear. How will you comprehend the ancient secret technique on the patterns of the 9 cauldrons? The patterns of the 9 cauldrons are full of mysteries. If you go berserk, all of your previous efforts will be wasted. Senior, do you have a way? Yi Fan frowned and asked Yi Ming. The demonic nature of the heavenly demon's power has already merged with your primordial spirit. The innate evil energy has already occupied half of your consciousness. Although the innate baleful energy has only just entered your body, its power cannot be underestimated. It has already begun to infiltrate your mind. Now that these three have merged with you, it will be very difficult to get rid of them. If it were so easy, Chui Zuan would not have broken the seal on your body to suppress your devil spirit. Yi Ming looked at Yi Fan and said calmly, "Then what should I do?" Yi Fan frowned and lowered his head, muttering to himself, "Didn't that Persian expert tell you to continue cultivating your two great secret techniques? Use the Xiantian secret technique and the proud moon heavenly scripture to suppress the three evil spirits. This is a temporary solution," Yi Ming said to Yi Fan. "Then what about the root of the problem?" Yi Fan asked. "The root of the problem is much more difficult," Yi Ming said to Yi Fan. "If you want to completely control these three powers, there are three ways." "What are the three ways?" Yi Fan raised his head and asked. "The first way is to completely suppress them in terms of spiritual energy, far surpassing them," Yi Ming explained. "But as far as I know, although the heavenly demon's power is not divided into levels, it will become stronger when the stronger it is. The innate baleful energy is formed from the purest baleful energy in the world and is extremely domineering. As for the evil energy in your body from your previous life, its power is not to be underestimated. If you want to use spiritual energy to suppress them, you will need to cultivate your two great secret techniques to the highest level, the 9th layer of the Xiantian secret technique, Lawless, and the 9th layer of the proud moon heavenly scripture, Blood Moon chapter. But then again, the dangers of cultivating to the highest level of these two techniques are no less than the dangers you are facing now. The slightest mistake will cause your body and soul to be destroyed. Do you dare to take this risk?" Yi Fan furrowed his brows and remained silent. He was very clear about the risks of cultivating his two great secret techniques. There were 9 layers of realms, each more dangerous than the last. Unless it was absolutely necessary, he would not blindly pursue power. "The second way is to rely on your state of mind," Yi Ming continued. "In the Buddhist scriptures it says, all things are like dreams, illusions, bubbles, shadows, dew, and lightning. They should be viewed as such. It also says, all things are illusory. If you see all things that are not real, then you see Tathagata. If you can truly let go of all worldly ties, cut off the threads of love, and become one with the truth, then all evil spirits will naturally self-destruct and avoid you. But if you want to cut off the threads of love with a sword, can you do it?" Yi Fan's frown deepened. The reason he had reached this stage was to save his beloved wife's true soul. It was impossible for him to cut off the threads of love with a sword, let alone let go of all worldly ties and become one with the truth. The third way is the 9 divine cauldrons that you're searching for. Yi Ming glanced at Yi Fan and continued. The ancient secret technique recorded in the 9 cauldrons pattern is said to be extremely powerful. It reveals the spiritual secrets of heaven and earth and contains the foundation of all things. There may be a way to resolve your 3 evil spirits. Yi Fan's eyes lit up when he heard this, and he immediately raised his head. 9 cauldrons again. It seems that he has no choice but to continue searching for the 9 cauldrons and then comprehend the ancient secret technique recorded in them, save his beloved wife's true soul, and resolve the 3 evil spirits that were affecting his mind. I will definitely find all 9 divine cauldrons and comprehend the ancient secret technique recorded in them, Yi Fan said with a resolute gaze. "Before that, I hope you can maintain a clear mind and clear mind," Yi Ming said to Yi Fan seriously. "Remember, if you really turn into an evil spirit that torments living beings one day, I will not show you any mercy. Not only me, Chui Zuan, Qing Chenzi, Tian Kanzi, and even the sky dragon worshipped by the Yi family and the heavenly court will not let you go. Of course, at that time, you will not let us go either. At that time, it will be a battle of life and death. We will rely on our own abilities and fate. I will remember," Yi Fan said firmly to Yi Ming. "If it really comes to that time, I will destroy my spirit and kill myself without the need for Senior to do anything." Yi Ming frowned when he heard this. "Senior, take care. I will take my leave." As Yi Fan said this, he bowed to Yi Ming and then turned around. He stood on the auspicious clouds and went straight into the sky. He is still that eldritch, he has not changed at all. In the wooden house, a clear voice came from the magic sword hanging on the wall. The voice was exactly the same as Yi Ming's. "Shut up." Yi Ming looked at Yi Fan's back and said with a deep gaze, after half an incense's time, Yi Fan landed on the small boat. It was already late at night, and the East Sea was calm. Only the rustling of the sea water against the side of the boat could be heard. Yi Fan walked into the cabin and sat on the futon. Bai Hu lightly jumped down from Yi Fan's shoulder, shook her head, and then curled up next to Yi Fan. Zhang Gong wide. As soon as Yi Fan sat down, he summoned the Yin and Yang ghosts on the Yin Yang ghost seal. Asterisk schwa. Asterisk 2 black lights came out of Yi Fan's arms and landed in front of Yi Fan and turned into human form. Zhang Gong. Wide. Greetings, sir. After the 2 ghosts appeared, they bowed to Yi Fan and said in unison, "I have something for you to do now." Yi Fan looked at the 2 ghosts and said calmly, "What orders does sir have?" Zhang Gong asked, "The 2 of you should take advantage of the night and head to the South Sea immediately. There's an uninhabited island 800 miles away from here." Yi Fan told the 2 ghosts, "I've hidden a piece of meteorite in the dense forest of the island. The 2 of you should deliver this piece of meteorite to the Yi family's ancestral residence at the Eagle's Distress Peak. Hand it over to my grandfather, who is also the head of the Yi family, Yin, personally before the sky turns dark tomorrow." The 2 ghosts were now Yin and Yang ghosts. Not only were their movements as fast as lightning, they could come and go without a trace. Their cultivation was also not the same as before. If they wanted people, they could be people. If they wanted ghosts, they could be ghosts. Sending them to deliver the meteorite to the ancestral home was the most appropriate choice. The 2 ghosts looked at each other with a puzzled expression. "Is there a problem?" Yi Fan asked when he saw the puzzled look on the 2 ghosts' faces. "Sir, there are many small islands in the sea. The 2 of us are not familiar with the South Sea. I'm afraid we won't be able to find the island that Sir mentioned in a short time," Wide said with a troubled expression. "You can rest assured," Yi Fan said to the 2 ghosts. "I have set up an ice pillar on the beach of the island. You will find it easily. In that case, us 2 brothers will set off immediately." Zhang Gong replied, "Remember, this matter is very important. There can be no mistakes, and no third person can know about it." Yi Fan said to the 2 ghosts, "And you can't harass the people and do whatever you want. Sir, don't worry. We will definitely take care of this matter and return as scheduled." Wide said, "Go quickly and return quickly." Yi Fan waved to the 2 ghosts, indicating that they should set off immediately. Chapter 760. After the 2 ghosts left the Eastern Sea, they hid their appearances and used their ghostly body techniques. Taking advantage of the dark night, they rode the wind toward the Southern Sea and galloped to their heart's content. Under the shining stars, the 2 ghosts seemed to be a little excited. After all, this was the first time they left the human world since they became ghost warriors to carry out the mission given to them by Yi Fan. Wide, who was wearing a green jade robe and a white jade belt, turned around and asked Zhang Gong, "Big brother, why did Mr. ask us to transport a stone from so far away?" "You don't know, but Mr. reincarnated as the eldest son and eldest grandson of the Yi clan, and the Yi clan is a well-known family of weaponsmiths. If I'm not wrong, the stone that Mr. asked us to transport this time must be a rare meteorite that is used to forge weapons." Dressed in a white jade robe and a jade belt around his waist, Zhang Gong, dressed like a scholar, said to Weida, "Now that the Yi family has been rehabilitated and the imperial court is facing heavy military pressure, it is as dangerous as a pile of eggs. Therefore, they will definitely rely on the Yi family's help to build military equipment. The piece of meteorite that Sir asked us to deliver this time might be related to this matter." Zhang Gong was quick-witted and good at reasoning, so he quickly made a rough guess. "Which side is Mr. on? Matsumoto Takayoshi's side or the imperial court side?" Wide was confused by Zhang Gong's words and asked with a puzzled expression, "What's the point of worrying so much? Zhang Gong turned around to look at Wei De and said, "You and I, Mr. Ming, didn't abandon us and took us under his wing. We obtained spiritual energy and turned into powerful spirits. Through extreme misfortune comes bliss. Naturally, we should repay the kindness of a drop of water with a gushing spring. We will do whatever Mr. says. Mr. is the reincarnation of Eldritch, so what he does is definitely not wrong." "Yes, Big Brother is right." Wide nodded and said, "We will do whatever Mr. asks us to do. We only listen to Mr. If Mr. wasn't merciful and took us in, we would still be wandering ghosts in Liu Village." "Don't talk nonsense. We're almost at the 800ly mark. Keep your eyes open and find that island as soon as possible," Zhang Gong reminded Wide. "Okay," Wide replied. The two ghosts stopped talking. They lowered their altitude and used their ghost eyes to carefully look down at the sea below them. They were searching for the island that Yi Fan had mentioned. The two of them were now at the Ghost Might realm, so their eyesight was naturally extraordinary. It didn't take them long to discover the clues. Dozens of miles away, on a small, uninhabited island, there was an ice pillar more than 10 feet tall standing on the beach of the small island. It was very conspicuous. "Big Brother, over there." Wide pointed down and shouted, "Come on, let's go down." Zhang Gong also noticed the icicles and said, "Whoosh." The two ghosts turned into two streaks of black smoke and whizzed down from the sky, heading straight for the small island. After landing on the small island, the two ghosts flew separately into the dense forest and found a huge black stone in a hidden bush. The meteoric iron was 9 feet in size. Its whole body was dark and shiny. It was completely different from ordinary stones. What was even more surprising was that there were no snakes, insects, rats, or ants within a few feet of the Blackstone. All the insects that got close to the Blackstone immediately turned around and fled in panic. "Big Brother, this is the meteoric iron that Mr. mentioned." Wide asked Zhang Gong. "What a strong, evil spirit." Zhang Gong came in front of the Blackstone and said while knocking on the Blackstone with his finger. Clang. Under the knocking, the Blackstone made a sound of metal clashing. It was clear and loud, and it lasted for a long time. "That's it," Zhang Gong said to Wide. "Big Brother, you take a rest. I will carry this stone. Let's hurry to the Yi family's residence on the Eagle's Distress Peak," Wide said as he rubbed his hands. He came in front of the Blackstone and pushed it with both hands. Whoosh! The 9-foot meteoric iron was lifted up by Wide and carried on his shoulder. "Oh my God, this thing is really heavy. It's at least 20,000 pounds, Wide said in surprise. Although this thing is not big, it is a meteoric iron. It is not comparable to ordinary iron. Of course, it is heavy." Zhang Gong smiled at Wide and said, "How is it? Is it okay?" "Okay." Wide put the meteoric iron on his shoulder down and said, "Let's go." As he spoke, he rode on the chilly wind and flew up into the sky. Zhang Gong smiled and rode on the chilly wind to follow behind Wide. As the two ghosts were invisible to outsiders, they could only see a huge black stone flying in the sky. It was very strange. After the two ghosts got the meteoric iron, they did not dare to stop at all. They flew towards the Eagle's Distress Peak at high speed. Even though Yi Fan had given them a deadline of tomorrow before nightfall, and there was plenty of time left, as the saying goes, a long night means trouble. The two ghosts wanted to deliver the item to the Yi family's ancestral home before daybreak. If it was after sunrise, they would have to travel by land. After all, if they were to carry such a large object and fly in the sky in broad daylight, it would frighten the citizens. They might even cause unnecessary trouble. Before they left, Yi Fan had specifically instructed them not to disturb the citizens. They had to keep a low profile and deliver the object secretly. Along the way, the two ghosts took turns to carry the meteoric iron and push their bodies to the limit. They finally arrived at the Yi family's residence before dawn. As soon as the two ghosts' feet touched the ground, the first ray of sunlight shone out. Phew! After Wide placed the meteoric iron in front of the Yi family's residence, he let out a long sigh. Fortunately, they made it in time. Otherwise, it would be troublesome to travel on land before dawn. At this time, the sunlight had already shone on the two ghosts, but they did not care at all. They were now ghost warriors. If they wanted humans, they would be humans. If they wanted ghosts, they would be ghosts. The sunlight was effective on normal ghosts, but it did not affect them at all. Knock, knock, knock. Zhang Gong tidied his clothes and knocked on the door. The door opened with a bang. However, the one who opened the door this time was not the gatekeeper, Huang Shui, but Yi Kong. Inside the door, he held the inverse scale, sword in his hand, and calmly looked at the two ghosts outside. Just now, when he was still in the room, he suddenly felt a wave of yin qi coming from outside the door. This yin qi was very similar to the yin qi released by the 100 Ghost Parade formation when the Qi Yao activated it. No, it was even more overbearing. Obviously, an otherworldly item was approaching the residence. After receiving Yu Jizi's guidance, Yi Kong's 5 senses had already reached an astonishing level. He did not inform anyone. Carrying the inverse scale sword, he hid his aura and quietly went behind the door. If the other party came with ill intentions, he would deal with them directly at the door. However, what surprised him was that the other party actually politely knocked on the door. Moreover, he did not feel any killing intent from the other party. When he saw the two ghosts, Yi Kong was shocked. The yin qi of the two ghosts in front of him had already exceeded his imagination. It was the first time he had seen otherworldly items that were not afraid of sunlight. What surprised him even more was that behind the two ghosts, there was a huge piece of meteoric iron emitting a murderous aura. The murderous aura came from this meteoric iron. Who are you looking for? Yi Kong looked at the two ghosts and calmly asked, "Sir, may I ask if this is the Yi family's ancestral residence?" Zhang Gong asked politely as he cupped his hands and bowed to Yi Kong. "That's right. This is the Yi family's ancestral residence," Yi Kong said to Zhang Gong, who had a scholarly appearance and was dressed in white. "You two are." "We were sent by Mr. Yi," Zhang Gong said to Yi Kong. "We want to personally deliver this item to Yi Yun." As Zhang Gong spoke, he turned around and looked at the huge piece of meteoric iron behind him. When Yi Kong heard this, he immediately understood. The two people in front of him were sent by Aiko Yi Fan to deliver the meteoric iron. He did not expect this brat to have such people as his subordinates. "May I ask if you are?" Zhang Gong asked Yi Kong. "I am Yi Kong. Your Mr. Yi is my son." "Master Yi Yun is my father," Yi Kong said to Zhang Gong. When the two ghosts heard this, they were shocked and immediately bowed to Yi Kong. Zhang Gong, wide. "Greetings, Senior Yi." The master in front of them was Eldritch's reincarnated father. Naturally, they did not dare to be rude. "You're welcome." Yi Kong opened the door and reached out to the two ghosts. "You two have had a long journey. Please rest inside." "Senior, you're too polite. We just need to deliver the meteoric iron. Then, we need to go back and report to Mr. Yi." "We won't disturb you," Zhang Gong said to Yi Kong. Then, he turned around and winked at Wide. Wide understood. He reached out and lifted the huge piece of meteoric iron. He stepped into the yard and placed the meteoric iron in the middle of the yard. "Good skill," Yi Kong exclaimed inwardly. Looking at the color of the meteoric iron, it weighed at least 20,000 pounds. However, this otherworldly item was able to lift it up so easily. Its cultivation level was very high. "Senior Yi, we're done here. We'll take our leave now." After Wide left the ancestral house, Zhang Gong bowed to Yi Kong. Yi Kong nodded. Swoosh. Chapter 761. In the cabin of the East Sea, Yi Fan sat on a futon, staring blankly at a square brocade box on the wooden table in front of him. The brocade box was not big, only about an inch in size. It was simple and exquisite, with gorgeous patterns, exuding a strong, exotic charm. Inside the box, there were 3 pills. The pills were the size of soybeans, red, blue, and purple. These 3 pills were the panaceas given to Yi Fan by the Persian expert Atal Sudi in the cave when Yi Fan left the Demon Island. He told Yi Fan that these 3 pills were called awakening pills, which were secretly made by his senior brother, Agyut Mozo. They were specifically used to prevent cultivation deviation. Once he felt that the demonic thoughts in his heart were burning, he could immediately take one. In this way, he could keep his mind clear and clear. However, although these pills were effective for Yi Fan, who had 3 spirits in one, it could only treat the symptoms but not the root cause. It could only temporarily suppress the demonic thoughts and evil spirits. In essence, it could not solve the root cause. Among the 3 pills, the blue pill was the weakest, the red pill was in the middle, and the purple pill was the strongest. A tall Suddy told Yi Fan that in the future, when the demonic thoughts were burning and could not be controlled, he could first take the blue pill. If the blue pill was still not effective, then take the red pill. If the red pill still could not suppress the demonic thoughts, then he could only take the purple pill. After taking the purple pill, Yi Fan would have to go to Persia to find him. After returning to Persia, he would find a way to find his senior brother and tell him about Yi Fan's situation. He would see if he could find a way to help Yi Fan solve this problem. At the very least, he should help him suppress the demonic thoughts. Looking at the 3 pills in front of him, Yi Fan's face was dignified. He did not know if he would really have to take these 3 pills in the future. While Yi Fan was thinking, 2 black smokes slowly flew in from outside the window. The 2 ghosts had returned. Seeing the 2 ghosts return, Yi Fan put away the brocade box with the pills and put it in his arms. After the black smoke dispersed, the 2 ghosts appeared. "Greetings, mister." The 2 ghosts bowed to Yi Fan and said in unison, "You're back so soon?" Yi Fan asked the 2 ghosts. He knew that this matter would not be difficult for the 2 ghosts, but he did not expect them to return so quickly. "Sir, we have completed the task you asked of us. We can report to you now." Zhang Gong cupped his hands and said to Yi Fan, "Has the meteorite been delivered safely?" Yi Fan asked. "It's here," Wide said respectfully to Yi Fan. "Did you run into any trouble along the way? Do any outsiders know about this?" Yi Fan continued to ask. "Don't worry, mister. We delivered the meteorite iron before dawn. We personally handed it to Mister's father, Senior Yi Kong. No one else knew about it, and the journey was smooth," Zhang Gong replied. "Out with my father now." After hearing Zhang Gong say that he had personally delivered the meteorite iron to his father, Yi Fan immediately asked with concern. During the demon-slaying conference, his father's injuries were not light. This time, he did not return to the ancestral home to visit his loving father, so he did not know how his father was doing. Senior Yi is surrounded by spiritual energy and has auspicious qi around him. "He is very good," Zhang Gong replied to Yi Fan. "Surrounded by spiritual energy? Auspicious qi around him?" Yi Fan was puzzled after hearing this. According to his inference, it would be good if his father could recover 50 to 60% of his injuries. How could he be very good? What puzzled him even more was that his father cultivated Xiantian Yuan Qi and did not have any spiritual energy in his body. How could he be surrounded by spiritual energy and have auspicious qi around him? That's right, Wide continued. Senior Yi has a dignified appearance, a dragon among men. One look, and we can tell that he is a spiritual energy expert. The treasured sword in his hand is filled with blazing yang qi. If it were the 2 of us in the past, we would definitely have been reduced to ashes by the yang qi on that treasured sword. After hearing this, Yi Fan became even more confused. With the 2 ghosts' current cultivation, they definitely could not have mistaken spiritual energy and auspicious qi. And that sword filled with yang qi was his father's inverse scale sword. From this point of view, the person they saw was undoubtedly his father. But how could his father suddenly have spiritual energy? Yi Fan could not understand. However, no matter what happened to his father, it was still a good thing. If he had the chance to see his father again, he would ask him about it in detail. "You 2 have done well. Return to the Yin-Yang Ghost Seal and rest," Yi Fan said to the 2 ghosts. "Yes, sir," the 2 ghosts replied, then turned into black streaks of light again and flew into the Yin-Yang Ghost Seal in Yi Fan's arms. After putting away the 2 ghosts, Yi Fan stood up from the prayer mat and went to the deck. Facing the gentle sea breeze, he gazed into the distance and fell into deep thought. It was now the 7th month of the lunar calendar, and there was still a month before the 8th month of the lunar calendar. What he needed to do now was to study the second and third layers of the proud moon heavenly scripture, then cultivate the secret technique on the 15th day of the 8th month to increase his spiritual energy, suppress the evil spirits, and balance the yin and yang qi in his body. On the other side of the EC, the wind was strong and the waves were strong. A huge warship was rising and falling on the waves, riding the wind and breaking the waves. The warship was extremely large, sleek, and well-equipped. At the bow of the ship, there was a huge cherry blossom carved into it. The cherry blossom was 7 feet tall and completely painted red. It was vivid and beautiful, and it was particularly eye-catching against the deep blue sea. Yes, this warship was Tokugawa Ieyasu's warship, Sakura Sakura. In the spacious and luxurious cabin of the warship, Yamada Keiko, who was wearing silk pajamas and had a beautiful face, was leaning against a soft pillow. Her long hair was like a waterfall, which made her look lovely and charming. Yagyu Ryu Zisuk, who was wearing Japanese clogs and snow-white clothes, was sitting on the side of the bed, holding a bowl of hot porridge in his hand and feeding Yamada Keiko spoon by spoon. Since Yamada Keiko was seriously injured by Yi Fan, Ryu Zisuk ordered the crew to sail the warship to the north of the East Sea and take care of Yamada Keiko carefully. Yamada Keiko was seriously injured by Yi Fan because she was helping him. He didn't say anything, but he had a subtle feeling for Yamada Keiko in his heart. In the past few months, he had personally taken care of Yamada Keiko's food and accommodation. He was very meticulous and attentive. Even when Yamada Keiko took a bath and changed clothes, he covered his eyes with a handkerchief and wiped Yamada Keiko's body with a fine brush with his keen hearing. Yamada Keiko saw this and was full of gratitude. "Sir, I'm fine now. You don't have to take care of me anymore," Yamada Keiko said softly to Ryu Zisuk. "Your body has just recovered 80%, and your ribs have just healed. You can't do strenuous activities. Of course, you need someone to take care of you." Ryu Zisuk put the rice porridge in the porcelain spoon to his mouth and gently blew on it a few times. Then, he handed it to Yamada Keiko's mouth and said softly, "You just need to take care of yourself. Don't worry about anything else." Although he was the reincarnation of the Black Dragon under Amaterasu God, he could only treat Yamada Keiko's injuries slowly. He couldn't use his spiritual power to heal her instantly. The reason was very simple. His body was a black dragon, which was the purest yang spirit in the world. Yamada Keiko, as a woman, was of the yin attribute. She couldn't bear Ryu Zisuk's overbearing true dragon spirit. Otherwise, her yin and yang would be in chaos, and she would turn into a man. Yamada Keiko opened her mouth and ate the rice porridge. "I've had a hard life since I was a child. I'm not that delicate." Yamada Keiko lowered her head and whispered to Ryu Zisuk, "I was originally ordered by General Tokugawa to take care of you, but now I've become a burden to you. Did Tokugawa Ieyasu tell you to listen to me?" Ryu Zisuk asked Yamada Keiko with a smile. "Yes," Yamada Keiko said with pursed lips. "Then listen to me. Don't say anything about being a burden," Ryu Zisuk said to Yamada Keiko. "When I came to the Great Ming Dynasty, I told you that I didn't treat you as a servant. This time, you were injured because of me. It's my duty to take care of you. My status is low. I feel uneasy that you would lower yourself to take care of me," Yamada Keiko said softly. "Take care of yourself. When you're better, you could take care of me. Then, won't we be even?" Ryu Zisuk put down the bowl of porridge and said with a smile. Yamada Keiko smiled and didn't say anything. Buzz, just as the two of them were talking and laughing, a golden light appeared out of thin air above the berth cabin and slowly descended. The golden light was dazzling and extremely bright. The entire cabin was filled with golden light. Seeing this, Ryu Zisuk's expression changed. He immediately stood up, tidied up his clothes, and knelt on the ground with an extremely respectful expression. Whoosh. Chapter 762. The woman in the golden light had starry eyes, crescent brows, bright eyes, creamy skin, red lips, and white teeth. She was so beautiful that she could be said to be unparalleled in the world. She wore a gorgeous red robe with a wide belt embedded with 7 colored gems around her waist. Her silky long hair cascaded down like a waterfall. Her bearing was graceful, luxurious, and extraordinary. She was surrounded by a myriad of golden lights and thousands of strands of auspicious aura, as if a god had descended to the mortal world. "Greetings, great god Amaterasu." After seeing the woman in the golden light, Long Jijia, who was kneeling on the ground, immediately lowered his head and bowed respectfully. The person who came was none other than the legendary Amaterasu. Yamada Keiko greets the great god. Hearing Long Jijia's words, Yamada Keiko, who was half lying on the bed, immediately lifted the blanket and got off the bed barefoot. She knelt behind Long Jijia and said in fear and trepidation, "The person who came was not like a god, but a god." The woman in the golden light slowly landed on the ground. She looked at Yamada Keiko, who was kneeling behind Long Jijia, with a pair of clear and beautiful eyes, then turned to look at Long Jijia. Her gaze was as deep as the starry sky. "Did you come to the great Ming dynasty to carry out a mission or to flirt?" Amaterasu asked Long Jijia. Amaterasu's voice was very pleasant to the ears. It was like a spring breeze, but at the same time, it was full of majesty. It made people feel very small, like ants. A god was a god. Compared to a mortal, the difference was like heaven and earth. "I don't dare." Long Jijia's expression changed as he lowered his head and answered, "You don't dare? Then let me ask you, where's Matsumoto Takeyoshi now?" Amaterasu asked Long Jijia in return. Reporting to the great god, Matsumoto Takeyoshi is now in the East Sea, only 1,000 miles away from here. Long Jijia replied, "If that's the case, why don't you go and capture him? Why are you here with this woman?" Amaterasu continued to ask, "Please allow me to report." Long Jijia raised his head and said, "After this subordinate arrived at the great Ming dynasty a few months ago, this subordinate directly went to find Matsumoto Takeyoshi to denounce him and prepare to capture him. But Long Jijia wanted to say something but stopped. But what? Amaterasu stared into Long Jijia's eyes and asked, "Could it be that you are not a match for Matsumoto Takeyoshi's men?" Great God, there is someone special among Matsumoto Takeyoshi's subordinates. With him around, I cannot capture Matsumoto Takeyoshi, Long Jijia told Tenzo. What? Does he have someone stronger than you? Tenzo frowned when he heard this. This person is none other than the reincarnation of Eldritch, Yi Fan, who fought against the 6 immortals 300 years ago without losing a single battle. Long Jijia said with a serious expression. Eldritch, Tenzo God's eyes lit up when he heard the name. She pinched her fingers in her sleeves a few times and instantly deduced the details. It really is him, Tenzo said with a smile on his face. Before I came here, the great god told me that Evil Moon, who was so powerful back then, had been reincarnated into the great Ming dynasty. If I meet this person on this trip, I must not make him my enemy to avoid disturbing karma, Long Jijia said to Tenzo. If that is the case, why don't you return to ISC Grand Shrine immediately? What are you doing in the East Sea? Tenzo asked Long Jijia. Eldritch worked for Matsumoto Takeyoshi because Matsumoto Takeyoshi used the soul-gathering evil cauldron to capture the true soul of his wife, Fujiwara no Chiko. Long Jijia continued. In order to get the 9 divine cauldrons, Matsumoto Takeyoshi used Fujiwara no Chiko's true soul to force Yi Fan to work for him. On the surface, Yi Fan agreed to help him find the cauldrons, but in reality, he used Matsumoto Takeyoshi's power to find the cauldrons for himself. He said that as long as he secretly found all 9 cauldrons, he could save his wife's true soul. When that happens, we can do whatever we want with Matsumoto Takeyoshi. Now, Matsumoto Takeyoshi has his wife's true soul in his hands. He cannot die just yet. I am staying in the East Sea to wait for Yi Fan to save his wife's true soul. Then I will kill Matsumoto Takeyoshi. Get up, Tenzo said after listening to Long Jijia's explanation. Thank you, great god. Long Jijia stood up and bowed his head. You get up too. Tenzo looked at Yamada Keiko, who was kneeling there with her head bowed. Thank you, great God. Yamada Keiko said in fear as she struggled to stand up. As she stood up, Yamada Keiko stumbled. Her ribs had just healed, and her organs had yet to recover from Yifan's injury. Her body was very weak, and she was shocked by Tenshu's majestic aura. Naturally, she lost her balance. Seeing that Yamada Keiko was about to fall, Long Jijia immediately reached out to hold her. His action was instinctive, and he did not consider that Tenzo was there. He did it without thinking. After holding Yamada Keiko, Long Jijia realized that he was being rude. He lowered his hands and stood in front of Tenzo respectfully. Tenzo smiled, and it was as bright as the sun. Amidst the golden light, she slowly walked towards Yamada Keiko and smiled at her. Yamada Keiko did not dare to breathe. She lowered her head. "Do you like Long Jijia?" Tenzo asked Yamada Keiko directly. Yamada Keiko was shocked. She looked up and looked at Tenzo with her beautiful eyes. She did not expect Tenzo God to ask her this question. Yamada Keiko's face was red. She was so nervous that she could not say a word. "Like or not?" Tenzo asked. Long Jijia frowned and did not say a word. He did not expect Tenzo God to ask Yamada Keiko this question. I don't dare." Yamada Keiko stuttered as she gave an irrelevant answer. "If you like him, you like him. If you don't like him, you don't like him. What's there to be afraid of?" Tenzo asked. Yamada Keiko did not say anything. She lowered her head and pursed her lips. Her face was red all the way to her neck. She fiddled with her clothes. "Looks like you don't like him." Tenzo smiled. Yamada Keiko raised her head and glanced at Long Jijia. She bit her lower lip and wanted to say something but stopped. Tenzo turned around and looked at Long Jijia. The smile on her face disappeared. "Kneel," Tenzo said. Long Jijia knelt on the ground. "She doesn't like you, but you have fallen for her. You even bathed and changed her clothes. This is considered seducing a woman. Is this against the rules of ISC Grand Shrine?" Tenzo looked at Long Jijia and asked. Her voice was stern. Long Jijia was shocked when he heard this. Yamada Keiko raised her head abruptly, her face full of shock. Swoosh! Tenzo reached out with one hand. Buzz, there was a flash of black light in Tenshu's hand. The black dragon katana that Long Jijia hung on the wall appeared in Tenshu's hand. "Let me ask you, according to the rules of ISC Grand Shrine, what is the punishment for seducing a woman?" Tenzo asked Long Jijia. "Anyone who seduces a woman will be killed." Long Jijia frowned. "You're my divine envoy, yet you've violated the rules of the palace. There's an old saying in the Central Plains. If the upper beam is not straight, the lower beam will be crooked. If I'm merciful to you and word gets out, won't people say that I'm spoiling my beloved general and am biased?" Tenzo said. He held the katana in his left hand and the hilt in his right. He pulled the black dragon katana out of its scabbard. Buzz, after the black dragon katana was unsheathed, countless rays of white light shot out from the katana. Tenzo placed the katana on Long Jijia's neck. His eyes were cold. A strong, murderous aura spread out from Tenshu's body. Crack! Crack! The wooden walls of the cabin began to crack, and the cracks spread out. Bang! Bang! The porcelain cups and bowls on the wooden table also shattered. Tenshu's murderous aura was so strong that the items around him could not withstand it. Zing! The black dragon katana shook violently. It sounded like it was crying and pleading with Tenzo. The katana had already gained sentience. Now that it wanted to kill its master, it could not bear to do so. Tenshu's face was expressionless. He tightened his grip on the katana. Buzz, the black dragon katana, let out a painful cry and stopped shaking. Tenshu's power was not something that a divine weapon could withstand. Swoosh! Tenzo raised his katana up high. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. "Yagyu, Seoda," Tenzo said. His eyes narrowed and his murderous aura exploded. Long Jijia closed his eyes and waited for his death. He never thought that he would die, and he never thought that he would die in the hands of Tenzo. Swoosh! At this moment, Yamada Keiko, who was dressed in a nightgown, suddenly rushed to Long Jijia's side. She spread out her arms and stood in front of Long Jijia. She panted heavily as she looked at Amaterasu with a determined gaze. What? Tenzo frowned. You dare to stop me? Keiko, what are you doing? Get out of the way. Long Jijia opened his eyes and shouted at Yamada Keiko. Blocking Amaterasu God's blade was tantamount to suicide. Long Jijia said and reached for Yamada Keiko. It did not matter if he died, but Yamada Keiko was innocent. Yamada Keiko shook off Long Jijia's hand and looked at Tenzo. Sir, you did not seduce me. I like you. Yamada Keiko said loudly. If you want to talk about seduction, then I was the one who initiated it. It has nothing to do with you. If you want to kill me, then kill me. Go away. Tenzo looked at Yamada Keiko coldly. If you don't go away, I will kill you too. Keiko, get out of the way. This has nothing to do with you. Long Jijia shouted at Yamada Keiko. Go ahead and kill me. Even if I die, I want to die with you. Yamada Keiko closed her eyes and said righteously. All right, I'll grant you your wish. Tenzo swung his black dragon saber at Chun Xiaobei. Huff! A golden light appeared out of thin air. Long Jijia let out a long sigh. This time, he and Yamada Keiko died under the black dragon katana. At least they had a companion on their way to hell. Swoosh! When it was less than a hair away from Yamada Keiko's neck, the black dragon katana stopped. Huff! The strong wind that followed blew the long hair of the two who were waiting for death with their eyes closed. Chapter 763. Tenzo said as he removed the black dragon combat sword from Yamada Keiko's neck. Swoosh! The black dragon combat sword returned to its scabbard. At the same time, the thick murderous aura around Tenzo disappeared without a trace. It was as if it was never there. The entire cabin was once again filled with a golden aura. If it were not for the cracks on the walls and the broken pieces on the floor, it would be impossible to imagine what had just happened. As soon as he said this, Long Jijia was stunned, and Yamada Huizi was stunned on the spot. Tenchu's 180-degree change in attitude left both of them stunned. Lu Sheng, you have good taste. You found yourself a good girl. Tenzo said with a smile as he swung the black dragon combat sword in his hand. Smack! The black dragon combat sword hung on the wall of the cabin. God, you're not going to kill us? Long Jijia asked Tenzo. Ha ha! Tenzo laughed out loud. His laughter was so beautiful that it made him look like a beautiful flower. I may be old, but I'm not stupid. You're my loyal subordinate. Why would I kill you? Tenzo laughed. If I didn't make her act real, she wouldn't have confessed her feelings to you. I've helped you so much. Why aren't you thanking me? Tenzo said as he looked at Long Jijia with a smile. Thank you, God Tenzo. Long Jijia was enlightened. He immediately kowtowed to Tenzo God and thanked him sincerely. He did not expect Tenzo God to do that just to help him in Yamada Keiko. What do you think? You must have been scared, right? Ha ha! Get up. Tenzo laughed. Long Jijia thanked Tenzo and got up from the ground. He stood aside and looked at Yamada Keiko. Yamada Keiko blushed and pursed her lips. She was smart enough to understand Tenzo God's intention. You are a woman who knows how to repay kindness. You are a loyal and righteous person. In order to help Yagyu, you injured yourself and did not ask for anything in return. In the face of life and death, you disregarded your own life to save Yagyu. You are truly an extraordinary woman. It is rare. Tenzo looked at Yamada Keiko and praised her. It is Yagyu's blessing to have a woman like you. Since you said you like Lu Sheng, let me ask you, are you willing to marry Lu Sheng? I. Hearing Amaterasu's question, Yamada Keiko raised her head and blushed. Just tell me if you're willing or not. You don't have to think about anything else. Tenzo smiled. If you're willing, then you can get married right here. If you're not willing or feel that this is too hasty, then I won't force you. Get married? Yamada Keiko exclaimed. Tonight? Long Jijia was also shocked. If you agree, I will be your witness. What do you think? Tenzo asked Yamada Keiko. I. Yamada Keiko blushed and looked at Long Jijia. Her eyes were shining. Long Jija looked at Yamada Keiko tenderly and nodded gently. I'm willing. After a long time, Yamada Keiko lowered her head and agreed to the marriage. The development of the situation had far exceeded her expectations. Earlier, she had said that she was just a servant and that Long Jija did not need to take care of her. Now, in less than 10 minutes, she was going to marry Long Jija, and the witness was Tenzo God. When Long Jija saw that Yamada Keiko had agreed to marry him, he was overjoyed. Ha! Good. Tenzo God was very happy. She raised her arm and waved it at the two of them. Whoosh, golden light flashed on the two of them. After the golden light, the two of them suddenly changed their appearance. At this time, Yamada Keiko was wearing a pearl phoenix crown on her head, a bright red dress, a colorful cape on her shoulders, and embroidered shoes on her feet. She was beautiful beyond compare. Long Jija was also wearing a jade belt and a golden crown. He was dressed like a bridegroom. This is the territory of the great Ming dynasty. The wedding customs here are much more lively than those in Japan. Let's follow the rules of the great Ming dynasty. Tenzo smiled and waved at the cabin again. Whoosh! The cabin that was full of cracks suddenly changed. There was a big red sheet character hanging on the wall, big red lanterns, big red candles, a big red carpet, and even the fruit platter on the table was filled with red dates and red fruits. On both sides of the she character, there was a big red couplet that was very eye-catching. The first couplet read, Xiang Feng Chung Long. Two surnames the second couplet read, Good flowers, full moon, 100 years of spring, a wedding in the Central Plains is so beautiful. Tenzo mumbled to himself and waved his hand in the air. Swoosh! A beautiful red veil appeared in Tenshu's hand. Come, put on this red veil, and you will be the bride. Tenzo placed the red veil on Yamada Keiko's head and smiled. Yamada Keiko's face was full of shyness. Now, you can worship the heavens and earth. Tenzo sat on the wooden chair in front of the table and said to the two of them. The two of them began to worship Tenzo. After 3 bows, the two of them faced each other. Long Jija reached out and lifted the veil on Yamada Keiko's head. He looked at Yamada Keiko lovingly. Yamada Keiko smiled shyly. From now on, you are Long Jijia's wife. Naturally, you are a member of the ISC Grand Shrine. Tenzo stood up from his chair and walked in front of Yamada Keiko. Your family members who were put under house arrest by Tokugawa Ieyasu will be released safely. You don't have to worry about them anymore. No matter how bold Tokugawa Ieyasu is, he won't dare to do anything to the people of the ISC Grand Shrine, let alone Long Jijia's wife. Keiko, thank you, great God. Yamada Keiko was so happy that she cried and wiped her tears. Her parents, who she worried about day and night, were finally saved. Long Jija patted Yamada Keiko's back to comfort her. You are now my beloved general's wife. I have to do something for you. Amaterasu smiled and said to Yamada Keiko, How about this? Today, I will give you the spirit of heaven as a wedding gift. When Long Jija heard this, his eyes widened and his face was full of shock. The spirit of heaven that Tenzo mentioned was the spiritual power in Tenshu's spiritual spring. It had never been given to anyone before. It was the spiritual power of a god. Tenzo had offered to give Yamada Keiko the spiritual power in his spiritual spring. It was obvious how much he liked Yamada Keiko. Tenzo slowly extended his index finger and gently tapped on Yamada Keiko's forehead. Buzz, as Tenshu's index finger touched Yamada Keiko's forehead, a dazzling golden light appeared out of thin air. After the golden light appeared, it began to spread from top to bottom and slowly spread to Yamada Keiko's entire body. Yamada Keiko only felt that an overbearing and extraordinary force surged out from between her eyebrows and flowed to all the meridians in her body. At the same time, it completely destroyed the true chi that existed in her body before, and then filled it up and replaced it. Whoosh, as the dazzling golden light gradually spread. Yamada Keiko's body slowly floated off the ground uncontrollably. Whoosh! She raised her head and closed her eyes. She opened her arms, and her long hair danced in the wind. The golden light covered her body, and the red wedding robe on her body fluttered even though there was no wind. Tenzo looked up at Yamada Keiko with a smile on his face. Long Jija looked at Yamada Keiko, who was 5 feet off the ground, in shock and disbelief. With the help of such a good wife, you will be even more powerful in the future, Tenzo said to Long Jija. Thank you, great God, Long Jija replied respectfully. From now on, don't touch Matsumoto Takeyoshi for the time being. Don't let it affect Eldritch's search for the tripod cauldrons. Tenzo then said to Long Jija, although Eldritch has now passed the heavenly tribulation and learned the 3 ultimate techniques, the power of the evil spirit in his body has also increased. Perhaps one day, he will go crazy. When that happens, remember to help him, but don't let Matsumoto Takeyoshi know, understand? Tenzo smiled at Yamada Keiko as he gave Long Jija the task. I understand, Long Jija replied. Remember, Matsumoto Takeyoshi has sent the sword of Kusanagi to the Ming dynasty. Unless it is absolutely necessary, do not face him head-on. Everything will wait until Eldritch has gathered the 9 tripod cauldrons. Yes, Long Jija replied. Buzz in midair. The golden light completely enveloped Yamada Keiko, who was floating motionlessly. At the same time, it suddenly expanded and shone brightly. At that moment, Yamada Keiko was like a golden person made of light. Yamada Keiko raised her head and clenched her fists. She could not help but let out a scream. Every second of the night is worth 1,000 gold. I'm going back to Dongying. I won't disturb you two anymore. Remember what I told you. Don't fall into a drunken stupor, understand? Tenzo turned around and looked at Long Jija. Yes, I will remember. Long Jija replied respectfully. As Tenzo spoke, a huge golden pillar of light descended from the top of his head and enveloped Tenzo completely. Tenshu's body slowly floated up and disappeared into the golden light. Farewell, great God. Long Jija knelt on the ground and bowed to the void. Buzz in midair, Yamada Keiko, who was covered in golden light, began to slowly float down. At that moment, her eyes were filled with spiritual chi and her body was surrounded by spiritual chi. Compared to before, she was completely different. Just a moment ago, she was a seriously ill person who could not even stand properly. Now, she was a master who had obtained the spiritual power of a god. As for the injuries on her body, they had already healed. Keiko, your injuries are all healed. Long Jija stood up and held Yamada Keiko's hands. Yamada Keiko's eyes were red and she nodded heavily. Keiko. Long Jija hugged Yamada Keiko tightly in his arms. At that moment, the two of them were already husband and wife. There was no need to hide their feelings in the bottom of their hearts. Where's Tenzo God? Yamada Keiko looked up and asked Long Jija. Spiritual chi had entered her body earlier, and she did not hear the conversation between Tenzo and Long Jija. Great God said that he did not want to disturb us newlyweds and returned to Dongying. Long Jija held Yamada Keiko in his arms and said gently. Chapter 764. 15th day of the 7th lunar month. Ghost Festival. Night. Forbidden City. On the incomparably spacious troop counting ground, there was a dense mass of people standing. These people were all over 7 feet tall. They were tall, muscular, and well-developed. Their muscular upper bodies were naked, and their hands and feet were shackled with heavy iron shackles. They stood ferociously on the soldier counting field paved with green flagstones, staring at the people on the soldier counting field with murderous eyes. Beside them stood an executioner with a red cloth tied to their heads. All of the executioners looked extremely tough and fierce. They were holding large sabers with red silk tied to them. They were expressionless, as if they were gods of death. There were 10,000 prisoners on death row and 10,000 executioners. The black iron shackles, the red silk that looked like blood, the shining sabers, the thick murderous aura coming from the prisoners, and the terrifying murderous aura coming from the executioners. The entire field was filled with murderous intent. On the field in front of the field, the savage corpse king, who looked like Dao Xian, stood with his hands behind his back. He wore a golden, silk Taoist robe. He narrowed his eyes as he looked at the tens of thousands of prisoners who were about to become zombie monsters. It was as if he was looking at a delicacy. At the thought of tearing open the throats of these prisoners and drinking their fragrant blood, the savage corpse king couldn't help but gulp down a mouthful of saliva. He had not enjoyed such a feast for a long time, since he was subdued by the Maoshan sect. The savage corpse king raised its head and looked at the dark clouds in the sky, calculating the time of eating meat. According to his calculations, in less than half an incense stick's worth of time, he would be able to eat legitimately. The imperial advisor has arrived. Just as the savage corpse king was swallowing his saliva and waiting patiently, an old eunuch's hoarse voice sounded from outside the troop count field. A huge golden palanquin with 8 carriers was carried in from outside as soon as he finished speaking. The palanquin was made of extremely rare sandalwood. It was wrapped in gold leaf and decorated with jade. It was carved with flowing clouds and flames, and the interior was covered with soft velvet. It was luxurious and ancient. On the roof of the palanquin, a fist-sized ruby sparkled like blood. It was very eye-catching in this pitch-black night, for beautiful palace maids were leading the way with exquisite palace lanterns in their hands. A little eunuch holding a horsetail whisk was standing on one side of the golden sedan chair, following closely behind, waiting for orders at any time. The person sitting in the golden palanquin was none other than the Maoshan sect leader and Great Ming's imperial advisor, Lu Yuanshan. That bastard, the imperial advisor's residence, is only a few hundred steps away from here, and he still put on such a grand display. With his current cultivation, he could arrive there in an instant with just a thought. What a dog of a slave, acting as if he had never seen the world. When I was the ruler of a country, your ancestors weren't even born yet. How dare you put on airs in front of me? Seeing Lu Yuanshan's golden palanquin approaching, savage corpse king cursed in his heart. But cursing was just cursing. He was still not Lu Yuanshan's opponent. He could only swallow his anger. The savage corpse king tapped the ground with the tip of its foot and floated down from the platform, landing in front of the sandalwood golden palanquin. Put down the sedan chair, the young eunuch on the left said. The 8 sedan bearers slowly got down from the palanquin. The young eunuch flicked his horsetail whisk and carefully lifted the coral curtain of the palanquin. Lu Yuanshan, wearing a purple robe and a jade belt, slowly walked out of the palanquin. Master! Savage corpse king lowered his head and cupped his hands, bowing to Lu Yuanshan. Lu Yuanshan's face was dignified as he casually responded. Long live the imperial advisor. All the executioners knelt on one knee and saluted Lu Yuanshan in unison. As for the 10,000 death row prisoners, they did not move at all. They had already been sentenced to death by beheading. They were all people who were about to die. So who would care about the imperial preceptor? Even if the emperor came, they would not put him in their eyes. Rise, Lu Yuanshan said with a smile. Thank you. Long live the imperial advisor. All the executioners expressed their gratitude and stood up. Dao Xian, Lu Yuanshan, called Savage Corpse King. Disciple is here, Savage Corpse King respectfully replied. Is everyone here? Lu Yuanshan's gaze swept over the death row prisoners and calmly asked. Replying to Master, all 10,000 death row prisoners are here, Savage Corpse King respectfully replied. Have you told them? Lu Yuanshan turned his head to look at Savage Corpse King and asked. Not yet, Savage Corpse King replied. Without Master's order, disciple does not dare to exceed his authority. Lu Yuanshan smiled, very satisfied with Savage Corpse King's answer. Withdraw all the executioners and let them guard outside the door. Without my order, no one is allowed to enter. Those who disobey will be beheaded. Lu Yuanshan smiled as he played with his slender fingers while speaking to Savage Corpse King. Yes, Master. Savage Corpse King was delighted when he heard this and opened his mouth to reply. He understood that Lu Yuanshan was clearing the area to prevent outsiders from knowing about this matter. Thinking of this, Savage Corpse King turned around and waved his hand at the executioners. All the executioners understood tacitly. They raised their blades and lined up, walking out in a line. All of you also leave and wait for me outside the door. Lu Yuanshan turned his head and said to the bearers, palace maids, and eunuchs beside him, "Yes." Everyone respectfully replied. They lifted the sandalwood palanquin and left the military field. On the large military field, only Lu Yuanshan, Savage Corpse King, and the 10,000 death row prisoners were left. Seeing all the executioners withdraw, the death row prisoners were puzzled. They originally thought that they were escorted here in the middle of the night to be beheaded on the spot. Now it seemed that this was not the case. The death row prisoners looked at each other, not knowing what the state preceptor in front of them was up to. Lu Yuanshan slowly walked to the military field with Savage Corpse King, following closely behind. After arriving at the military field, Lu Yuanshan stopped and turned around to face the death row prisoners. "Everyone, listen up." Lu Yuanshan cleared his throat and said to the prisoners on death row, "I've invited all of you here in the middle of the night because I have good news to tell you. Right now, the imperial court is giving all of you a chance to redeem yourselves. As long as you grasp this opportunity, you won't have to be beheaded. Instead, you can even be promoted and bring honor to your family." Not be beheaded, promoted, and promoted? Bring honor to their family? When the death row prisoners heard this, their hearts moved and their faces were shocked. Survival was undoubtedly the greatest hope for people who were about to die. Anyone would be tempted if they were in his shoes. Most of them were carefully selected from death row prisons all over the country before being escorted to the capital. They were already very puzzled. If a death row prisoner was to be beheaded, then so be it. Why was there a need to escort them all the way to the capital? It was superfluous. Now it seemed that there was another mystery behind this matter. If they guessed correctly, the imperial court needed them. As for what they needed to do, it was very simple. Most of these death row prisoners were famous bandits who occupied mountains and killed people without blinking an eye. Other than killing people, they did not know how to do anything else. They heard that the war around the imperial court was tense. The soldiers of the 4 countries were at the city gates, and swords were drawn. At this time, the imperial court spared them from death and let them atone for their crimes. Other than going to the battlefield to kill the enemy, what else could they do? You want us to go to the battlefield to kill? To serve the imperial court? Among the death row prisoners, a tall man with a curly beard and a body full of muscles asked loudly. "Smart," Lu Yuanshan said with a smile. "I like smart people." "Good. You prepare good wine and good meat for me, and find 3 women for me to play with. Then give me 1,000 taels of silver, and I am willing to serve the imperial court. Ha ha ha." The strong man shook the iron chain and laughed loudly. Ha ha ha. The death row prisoners also laughed loudly. "If you want a reward, you can, but you have to wait until you return from the battlefield. Before that, you can't fulfill any of your conditions, including wine and meat," Lu Yuanshan said with a smile. "If you don't give us wine and meat, what will we eat?" "Huh?" Another strong man among the death row prisoners asked loudly. "Are you going to let us go to the battlefield hungry?" Of course there will be food," Lu Yuanshan said with an evil smile. "Eating people." Eat people?" the strong man asked. He thought there was something wrong with his ears. "Let me tell you the truth. Tonight, I will turn you 10,000 death row prisoners into half-human, half-demon corpse monsters and form a corpse monster army to deal with the powerful, mysterious army on the battlefield. If you return victorious, I will find a way to restore you to human form, and then I will report to the imperial court to give you a promotion and let you live a life of splendor and wealth. Of course, the premise is that you can come back alive and retain your consciousness. If you die on the battlefield, or come back bloodthirsty and become a walking corpse, then I can only send you on your way. Consider it your bad luck," Lu Yuanshan said concisely and comprehensively. After hearing this, the death row prisoners were at a loss, as if they were listening to a heavenly book. Half-human, half-demon, corpse monster army, walking corpse. They didn't understand Lu Yuanshan's meaning. Lu Yuanshan turned his head and looked at the Savage Corpse King, indicating that he should explain this matter. The Savage Corpse King understood tacitly and explained the matter in detail to the death row prisoners. After hearing this, the death row prisoners were silent, and they no longer looked at death as if they were returning home. If you are willing, you may live and turn over a new leaf. If you're not willing, then we will follow the original rules and execute you. This teacher will not force you on this matter. You can choose for yourselves, Lu Yuanshan said as he picked up the teacup on the wooden table beside him and took a sip. The death row prisoners frowned and lowered their heads to think. On one side was death without any suspense, and on the other side was a chance to live, but they had to become corpse monsters. The death row prisoners fell into a dilemma. How is it? Have you thought it through? Lu Yuanshan put down the teacup and asked the death row prisoners. If we come back from the battlefield, how confident are we in restoring our human form? One of the death row prisoners broke the silence and asked Lu Yuanshan, "Didn't I just say it?" As long as you can control your bloodthirsty desire to kill and retain your consciousness, I have absolute confidence in helping you restore your human form. Before that, I will take away one of your souls and one of your souls. First, I will make you listen to my orders, and second, I will ensure that your souls and one of your souls will not be tainted by the desire to kill. In the future, you will be able to get rid of your desire to kill to the greatest extent, Lu Yuanshan explained. All right, then I am willing to gamble. At worst, I will still die, and it will be considered atonement for my crimes. The death row prisoner hardened his heart and said, "Count me in." Someone in the crowd agreed. "I'm also willing." "I agree. I will also go among the death row prisoners." More and more people joined the corpse monster army. Chapter 765. Master, it's time. On the battlefield, Savage Corpse King looked up at the sky and slowly walked behind Lu Yuanshan. He moved his head close to Lu Yuanshan's ear and whispered, "Okay." Lu Yuanshan replied. He stood up from his seat as he spoke. "Everyone, it's time. Let's begin." Lu Yuanshan extended his right hand and formed a sword finger. Buzz, the golden light flashed in Lu Yuanshan's sword finger, and a talisman made of golden light appeared. The talisman was 7 inches long and 3 inches wide. The runes were like dragons and snakes, shining with golden light. The golden light illuminated Lu Yuanshan's handsome face. Maoshan Golden Talisman. The Savage Corpse King behind Lu Yuanshan was shocked. It was because of this golden talisman that he was controlled by Lu Yuanshan and could not fight back. It was because of this golden talisman that he became Lu Yuanshan's lackey and did not dare to say anything. Now, Lu Yuanshan was going to use this golden talisman to control the 10,000 zombies. Once the golden talisman was out, Lu Yuanshan threw the golden talisman lightly. Swoosh! The golden talisman flew straight up into the sky with a trail of light behind it. It hovered there motionlessly like the sun in the sky. All the prisoners on death row raised their heads at the same time and looked up at the sky. They had never seen such a strange scene. Swoosh! After the golden talisman floated in the air, Lu Yuanshan used the Mao Shan Dao technique and pointed his sword finger at the golden talisman. Buzz, the golden talisman shone brightly and dazzlingly. The sudden burst of golden light illuminated the entire night sky, making it as bright as day. The shocked faces of the death row prisoners were illuminated. Slap! Lu Yuanshan's sword finger turned into a palm and pushed at the golden talisman. Swoosh! Swoosh! The golden talisman was pushed by Lu Yuanshan and turned into tens of thousands of pieces that rained down from the sky towards the death row prisoners. Tens of thousands of golden rays of light shot down like a golden rainstorm. The entire soldier counting ground turned golden in an instant. What a domineering spiritual energy. The Savage Corpse King's pupils constricted and he was shocked. Lu Yuanshan's Mao Shan Dao technique was at least 50% stronger than when he was the sect leader. To be able to use tens of thousands of golden talismans at the same time, this guy's power was increasing. The Savage Corpse King's guess was right. After Lu Yuanshan became the state preceptor, His power was increasing at an extremely fast speed. This was all thanks to his position as state preceptor. His power could be said that he was above everyone else. Except for military power, he could interfere in almost any field, including the Ministry of Internal Affairs. The treasury of the Internal Affairs Department was filled with all kinds of rare treasures, elixirs, and miraculous medicines that were offered by the envoys of various countries every year. Lu Yuanshan was not interested in those treasures. He was interested in those treasures. He was interested in those treasures. He was interested in those treasures. He dismissed the steward of the House of Household Affairs for a groundless crime, and then personally took over the House of Household Affairs in the name of taking inventory. Since then, those treasures in the Ministry of Internal Affairs were taken by Lu Yuanshan in batches to increase his power. Among these elixirs, there was the inner core of the earth clam that Persia had offered as a tribute, the flying grass pill that the Western region had offered as a tribute, the meat Taisui pill that the Tubo Empire had offered as a tribute, and the blood marrow reconnection pill that the Dali Kingdom had offered as a tribute. Compared to these treasures, the 1,000-year-old ginseng and 1,000-year-old lingji were nothing. They could only be regarded as ordinary supplements for Lu Yuanshan. These treasures were all rare treasures that could only be found by chance. Now that Lu Yuanshan had taken them in private, it would be strange if his power did not increase greatly. In addition, he also used the precious herbs that were offered to the imperial court every year to refine his own pills. As for the pills he refined, he would naturally take them himself. In this way, Lu Yuanshan's cultivation could be said to be increasing day by day. It was not the same as before. The exquisite and orthodox Maoshan Taoist arts, the vigorous and overbearing surging spiritual energy, and the support of the savage zombie kings, half a 1,000-year corpse core, as well as various spiritual pills and elixirs. Lu Yuanshan's current cultivation base was already close to that of a half-immortal. Activating the 10,000 golden talismans was as easy as flipping his hand for the current him. Swish, swish, swish. Tens of thousands of golden talismans poured down like a storm, accurately piercing into the glabella of every condemned prisoner. Buzz, as soon as the golden talisman entered their bodies, a vermilion Taoist talisman appeared between their eyebrows. Boundless heaven and earth, myriad arts return to the origin. Heaven's soul and earth's soul, enter my hands. Shua. As Lu Yuanshan spoke, his hand gesture changed from a standing palm to a flat palm. Buzz, as soon as Lu Yuanshan's voice fell, the vermilion runes on the foreheads of all the condemned prisoners instantly shone brightly. Withdraw. Lu Yuanshan shouted in a low voice. Whoosh, two beams of light, one green and one red, shot out from the eyes of the condemned prisoners, flying towards Lu Yuanshan. In the process of flying towards Lu Yuanshan, the two beams of light merged into one, turning into a 3-inch human-shaped light that was alternating between green and red. Whoosh, tens of thousands of human-shaped lights continuously condensed into Lu Yuanshan's flat palm. The scene was extremely spectacular. After a while, Lu Yuanshan's palm was densely packed with 3-inch light figures. The souls and spirits of the 10,000 condemned prisoners had all been collected by Lu Yuanshan. Looking at the souls in his hand, Lu Yuanshan's face revealed a trace of a strange and evil smile. He began to slowly close his 5 fingers. Buzz, buzz, buzz. As his 5 fingers closed, the densely packed 3-inch light figures in his hand began to gradually merge into one, compressing into a walnut-sized golden light figure. Lu Yuanshan opened his mouth and directly swallowed the souls of the condemned prisoners into his stomach. The savage zombie king, who was standing at the side, was shocked by Lu Yuanshan's action. His pupils constricted, and he was stunned on the spot. Lu Yuanshan had actually taken the souls of the condemned prisoners as his own. What a despicable method! What a sinister scheme! Just a moment ago, he had promised the condemned prisoners that he would atone for his crimes by meritorious deeds and be promoted. But now, he had swallowed the souls of the condemned prisoners without even thinking. The poison in his heart was even more poisonous than snakes and scorpions. Although he had swallowed many living people, he had only taken their flesh and blood after all. He had never swallowed their souls, because he knew that once the soul was swallowed, there would be no possibility of reincarnation. But after Lu Yuanshan swallowed the souls of the condemned prisoners, his body suddenly shone with golden light, dazzling and dazzling. In the golden light, Lu Yuanshan smiled and closed his eyes, feeling the changes in his strength. After these 10,000 condemned prisoners had turned into corpse demons, the possibility of turning back into a human was simply minuscule. In the end, it was inevitable that they would die. Even if some people had strong willpower and had the possibility of turning back into a human, Lu Yuanshan would definitely not be willing to use his own strength to help them recover. To him, these souls represented the power of 10,000 souls. One had to know that these condemned prisoners were willing to give their souls to him, without any resentment, extremely pure. 10,000 souls and spirits were concentrated in his body. The strength was almost close to that of a true immortal. Shua, the golden light enveloped Lu Yuanshan, slowly flew off the ground. Floating in the air, Lu Yuanshan clenched his fists and opened his arms, allowing the newly absorbed power of 10,000 souls to flow through his meridians. Despicable, shameless, beast. Looking at Lu Yuanshan, who was in the air, the savage corpse king on the ground gritted his teeth and clenched his fists so tightly that it made cracking sounds. 10,000 lives were cheated by Lu Yuanshan, just like that, and then turned into corpse demons that were neither human nor ghost, and finally lost their lives on the battlefield. They had died without even knowing the cause of their deaths. He did not know why, but at this moment, he suddenly did not want to suck the blood of these men. It was true that he had eaten people, but he had let them die without knowing why. He had never done anything that showed one thing on the surface and another behind the scenes. Shua! In the air, Lu Yuanshan slowly opened his eyes. 2 rays of golden light shot out from his eyes. With a smile on his face, he slowly floated to the ground. If the secret medicine pill increased his spiritual energy by 50%, then this power of 10,000 souls directly increased his cultivation by more than 10 times. The next step is up to you. The golden light enveloped Lu Yuanshan, slowly turned around, glanced at the savage corpse king with his golden eyes, and said, after the death row prisoners turn into corpse demons, lock them all in the armory and send people to guard them. There cannot be any mistakes, understand? Yes, master. The savage corpse king suppressed the anger in his heart and respectfully said to Lu Yuanshan. Lu Yuanshan dispersed the golden light on his body, and while responding, he slowly walked out of the army field. Looking at the vile Lu Yuanshan, who was gradually getting away, and then looking at the 10,000 death row prisoners with dull expressions, the savage corpse king's face turned ashen, and he stood motionless in the same place. The difference in strength between him and Lu Yuanshan was getting bigger and bigger, and this made him feel uneasy. If this went on, he would never be able to make a name for himself. He did not want to be Lu Yuanshan's minion forever. It seemed that he had to think of another way. Now, even if he did not want to, he had to follow Lu Yuanshan's instructions and turn the 10,000 death row prisoners into corpse demons. Otherwise, if the crown prince blamed Lu Yuanshan, then Lu Yuanshan would make him his target. I'm sorry, brothers. In the future, I will definitely avenge you. The savage corpse king said as he slowly walked in front of the death row prisoners. He slowly opened his mouth. Cha! The neat teeth in the savage corpse king's mouth instantly grew crazily, becoming snow white and sharp, incomparably sharp. Pooh! The savage corpse king fiercely bit a death row prisoner's neck. His eyes turned blood red, and his mouth let out a beast-like roar. As the blood gushed into his mouth, traces of corpse poison also entered the death row prisoner's body through his sharp teeth. The death row prisoner's eyes gradually turned blood red, and the sharp teeth in his mouth quickly grew. His face was ferocious, and at the same time, he let out a terrifying roar. Ah! The Savage Corpse King pulled out his sharp teeth and once again let out a low roar and bit the neck of another death row prisoner. The 10,000 death row prisoners who had lost a part of their soul, the Savage Corpse King used an entire night to turn them all into powerful corpse demons. When he wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, the sky had already turned bright. Looking at the 10,000 corpse demons who were letting out low roars with blood-red eyes, the Savage Corpse King felt very uncomfortable in his heart. Chapter 766. Half a month later. It was noon. Above the East Sea, the wind was howling and the waves were rolling. The sky was covered with dark clouds, and it was drizzling. The small boat that Yi Fan was in was rocked up and down by the waves. Inside the cabin, Yi Fan was sitting on a praying mat with his eyes closed. He was reciting the mantra of the proud, moon heavenly scripture. He was concentrating on comprehending the cultivation bottleneck. Baihu Xiao Zhao was sitting in a delicate bamboo hanging basket, leisurely swinging back and forth. This hanging basket was made by using 2 ropes to hang a bamboo basket from the ceiling of the boat. The inside was covered with soft and thick cotton pads. There were also delicious pastries and fruits. Because Xiao Zhao was a little seasick, coupled with the high waves in the East Sea, Yi Fan came up with the idea of using the hanging basket to cushion the boat's violent shaking. Xiao Zhao had always liked to play on the swing when it was still in its human form. So when Yi Fan carried it into the hanging basket, it was really excited. In this way, it wouldn't be confused by the violent shaking of the boat. Moreover, it could eat and drink comfortably inside. It was very happy. Voila! The cabin door was opened. Akatsuki in a red dress walked in from the outside. She was holding an umbrella in one hand and a food box in the other. She took off her shoes and entered the cabin. I just finished cooking. Eat it while it's hot. Akatsuki took off her veil and knelt on the praying mat in front of Yi Fan. She took out the food and wine one by one from the food box and said to Yi Fan with a smile. Recently, their team didn't have any tasks. They were very idle. Akatsuki used this time to cook different dishes for Yi Fan every day. Moreover, it was all Yi Fan's favorite dishes. This time, she made 6 dishes, 3 meat and 3 vegetables. She also prepared a pot of wine and 2 cups. The white fox in the hanging basket smelled the aroma of the food. It jumped down from the hanging basket and licked its lips as it approached the wooden table. What's the occasion today? Why is there such a sumptuous feast? Yi Fan, who was sitting on the futon, slowly opened his eyes and asked Akatsuki with a smile. Guess. Akatsuki raised her head and asked Yi Fan with a mysterious smile as she picked up a few drumsticks for Baihu. I guess. Yi Fan smiled as he picked up his teacup and sipped his tea. How could I guess? Today is my birthday, the first day of August. Akatsuki smiled at Yi Fan and said, What, your birthday? Yi Fan asked in surprise. Yes. Akatsuki nodded like a child. I didn't expect your birthday to be in August, too. What a coincidence. Yi Fan put down his teacup and said, Yes, your birthday is on the Mid-Autumn Festival. I got it half a month earlier than you. Akatsuki said to Yi Fan with a smile. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Yi Fan said to Akatsuki, If you had told me earlier, I could have prepared a feast for you. You were busy comprehending the cultivation technique. How could I dare to disturb you? Akatsuki picked up the wine pot and filled the 2 empty cups with sake. She smiled and said, I'm very satisfied that you can celebrate my birthday with me. Yi Fan smiled and didn't say anything. Come, let's have a toast. Akatsuki handed a cup of sake to Yi Fan. Okay, then I'll use this opportunity to congratulate you. Oh no, it's the beauty. Yi Fan took the cup with both hands and said to Akatsuki with a smile, I wish you good fortune as the East Sea. Good fortune, and a long life. Ha! Okay, I'll take your blessings. Akatsuki smiled. The 2 clinked their cups and drank. Today, other than my birthday, there's another thing worth celebrating. Akatsuki filled their cups and said, There's one more thing worth celebrating? What is it? Yi Fan asked with a smile. Take a guess. Yu Hongji put down the wine jug and smiled at Yi Fan as she asked, "You want me to guess again?" Yi Fan asked. Akatsuki smiled and nodded. "I'm not a god. How can I guess?" Yi Fan smiled. "I'm not afraid of you laughing at me, but when I was young, I couldn't even win at rock, paper, scissors. Let me give you a hint. It's about me." Akatsuki stared into Yi Fan's eyes and smiled mysteriously. "About you?" "Yes. Your master sent you a letter?" Yi Fan asked. "No." Akatsuki shook her head and smiled. Then you received another reward from Matsumoto Takeyoshi?" Yi Fan asked again. "Aya, you're so stupid. Here." Akatsuki bent down and leaned in front of Yi Fan. She said, "Look at me, look carefully." There was only a wooden table between the two. Akatsuki leaned forward and put her face directly in front of Yi Fan, less than half a foot away from Yi Fan. Facing the beautiful Akatsuki, whose breath was like orchids, and whose chest rose and fell, Yi Fan only felt his mouth dry and his body hot. The Akatsuki in front of him reminded him of the scene of him kissing his beloved wife half a month ago. I can't guess." Yi Fan avoided Akatsuki's gaze, turned his head, and waved his hand. "You can't tell? How is that possible?" Akatsuki sat up in confusion and asked with a puzzled expression. Yi Fan gulped down 2 big mouthfuls of tea, suppressed the lust in his heart, and pretended to be calm. "I really can't guess. Don't keep me in suspense. Come and see." Akatsuki said and stretched out her hand. Buzz, a 1-foot-large ball of spirit energy, appeared in Akatsuki's palm out of thin air. The ball of light was brilliant and dazzling. It was red, purple, and white, and it kept spinning in Akatsuki's hand. The 3-colored light instantly illuminated the entire cabin, making it look like a dream. Even Baihu, who was eating at the side, couldn't help but stop eating and look back at the ball of spirit energy in Akatsuki's hand. Under the illumination of the light, Akatsuki's face was brimming with excitement. When Yi Fan saw this, he was really shocked by this scene. It hadn't even been 3 months since he passed the spirit energy technique to Akatsuki, and she was actually able to condense such pure spirit energy in such a short period of time. This Japanese woman's aptitude was so high that it was really rare. No wonder she wanted him to take a good look at her. It turned out that she was hinting at him to check out her spirit energy cultivation. Seeing Yi Fan's stunned expression, Akatsuki smiled and asked, "How is it? Not bad, right? It seems that I really passed the spirit energy technique to the right person." Yi Fan nodded and said seriously, "You can condense such pure spirit energy in just a few months of cultivation. Your aptitude is really extraordinary. In the future, with a little guidance, you will definitely soar to the sky. You are definitely not an ordinary person." "Really?" Akatsuki was pleasantly surprised. "Of course it's true." Yi Fan smiled and said, "Then I'll thank you in advance." Akatsuki withdrew her spirit energy and raised her wine glass to Yi Fan. "Whether I can soar to the sky in the future will all depend on you." "That's easy. After the 15th of August, when I finish my cultivation, I will teach you the spirit energy technique. When your spirit cultivation reaches a certain level, I will teach you the cloud riding technique. By then, you will also be able to ride the clouds." Yi Fan raised his wine glass and said with a smile, "Consider this my birthday gift to you." The only thing he could give Akatsuki now was his cultivation. "That's great." Akatsuki was excited when she heard that. With the ability to ride the clouds, even if she returned to Japan in the future, even if she was thousands of miles away from Yi Fan, she would be able to quickly meet up with Yi Fan. "Ha!" The two of them clinked their wine glasses and downed it again. "Come, let's eat." Akatsuki put down her wine glass and picked up her chopsticks to pick up food for Yi Fan. "You're the birthday girl today. You can't just eat this. You have to eat a bowl of longevity noodles. Wait here. I'll make it for you. It'll be quick." Yi Fan stood up, turned around, and went downstairs into the kitchen. Looking at Yi Fan's figure going downstairs, Akatsuki felt a lot of emotions in her heart. At this time next year, she didn't know if she would still be able to spend her birthday with Yi Fan. Perhaps by then, Yi Fan would already be with his wife, Fujiwara no Chiko, living a godlike life in the Lingyun cave. She should cherish what she had now. When Akatsuki thought of this, she filled her empty glass with wine again and drank by herself. In the cabin of the battleship, Matsumoto Takeyoshi, dressed in a loose gray robe, stood by the porthole with his hands behind his back. He looked out at the sea with deep eyes. The man in white stood behind the wooden table with a saber at his waist. He was motionless like a statue. After a long time, Matsumoto Takeyoshi reached out to close the porthole and asked, "How's the progress over there?" "We haven't received any news yet." The man in white replied. "What's the matter?" Matsumoto Takeyoshi asked with a frown. "That place is thousands of miles away from here. It takes a lot of time to make a round trip. Moreover, refining the meteoric iron is extremely laborious. It's normal that there's no progress for the time being." The man in white explained, "Sasaki and Miyamoto Akichi are guarding there." "Don't worry, sir. This matter is of great importance. There must be no problems." Matsumoto Takeyoshi sat back on the futon and said with a serious face, "Sir, if you're worried, would you like to send more people there?" The man in white asked. "Absolutely not." Matsumoto Takeyoshi shook his head and said, "The fewer people who know about this, the better. If there are more people, it's easier for problems to arise." The man in white nodded slightly. "Well, 3 days later, we'll go there in person." Matsumoto Takeyoshi poured himself a cup of tea and said, "Sir, you want to go there in person?" The man in white frowned and asked, "Yes." Matsumoto Takeyoshi said while drinking tea, "There can't be any mistakes in this matter. I have to ask in person to be at ease." "Well, I'll escort you, sir," the man in white said calmly. "But once we leave, Yi Fan will definitely know about this. I'm afraid that at that time, don't worry about this problem," Matsumoto Takeyoshi said. "Before we leave, I'll send him and Akatsuki out to perform a task. We'll be back before he returns." "That's for the best," the man in white nodded and said. "Not only do we have to avoid Yi Fan, but we also have to avoid other people," Matsumoto Takeyoshi said. "Before we leave, arrange for Chinkong Iha and Qingshi to disguise themselves as you and me and stay here." Chapter 767. 3 days later, early in the morning, high up in the sky, carrying Baihu, the black-robed, silver-haired Yi Fan, and the white-robed Akatsuki, who carried a saber on her back, stepped on the white, auspicious clouds and flew towards the northwest at high speed. They received a new mission from Matsumoto Takeyoshi and rushed to a village in Shandong to find clues about the Divine Cauldron. This time, Yi Fan did not use his spirit energy to protect Akatsuki. The reason was simple. Akatsuki's current spirit energy cultivation was enough to resist the biting cold in the sky. "How is it? Can you withstand the speed?" Above the clouds, the silver-haired Yi Fan turned to look at Akatsuki and asked. "No problem." Akatsuki used her spirit energy to resist the harsh conditions in the sky and replied. Yi Fan smiled, turned his head, looked ahead, and continued on his way. "There's one thing I still don't understand," Akatsuki said. "Matsumoto Takeyoshi said that there are demons in the village in Shandong. What does this have to do with the Divine Cauldron we're looking for?" Matsumoto Takeyoshi called the two of them to the cabin of the warship yesterday and told them to rush to Shandong the next day and find a place called Li Family Fort. There were demons there recently, and all kinds of phenomena indicated that it might be related to the Divine Cauldron. Although Akatsuki did not ask at that time, she muttered in her heart. She did not understand the connection between demons and the Divine Cauldron. Yi Fan was now an expert in finding divine cauldrons, which was why she asked. "Of course it's related to the Divine Cauldron," Yi Fan explained. "Any peerless treasure or heavenly spirit treasure will have a spiritual object guarding it. These spiritual objects will be attracted by the spirit energy of the treasure and then absorb the spirit energy to adjust the chi. As time passed, it gradually became a climate. So the demons in Li Family Fort this time might be related to the Divine Cauldron. So that's how it is. No wonder. Akatsuki suddenly understood. I heard that the demons, they're very fierce. Even the people from a celestial master manor can't do anything to them. Akatsuki said to Yifan. Demons are the same as humans. They are also divided into levels. The cultivation of strong demons is definitely not ordinary, and if they obtain the spirit energy of the divine cauldron, then it will be even more difficult to handle. Even if it is me, I will have to put in a lot of effort. Yifan looked forward and explained. From what you're saying, you're implying that you've fought a monster like that before. Akatsuki was smart enough to pick up the clues from Yifan's tone. You guessed right. Yifan turned around and said with a smile, I've actually met one before. He then told Akatsuki about how he was searching for the cauldron in the East Sea, how he met the spiritual power of the divine cauldron, how he had a dragon head and snake body, and how he had beaten it into submission with his fists. Yifan said it casually, but Akatsuki was terrified when she heard it. She could not imagine how grand the scene of Yifan fighting with the strange dragon was. No wonder she had heard the sudden sound of huge waves in the cabin. She had thought that there was an earthquake at the bottom of the sea nearby, but now she knew that Yifan was subduing the strange dragon. Why didn't you tell me about such a dangerous thing in advance? Why did you take the risk by yourself? If something went wrong, I wouldn't even know where you went. Akatsuki complained to Yifan. If it was anywhere else, I would definitely be with you, but this is the East Sea. If you were with me, Matsumoto Takeyoshi would definitely be suspicious. Moreover, the East Sea is not comparable to the Sisui River. You are so afraid of water, you'll be scared out of your wits. Yifan explained with a smile. After Akatsuki heard this, she pursed her lips and did not speak. Yifan's words left her speechless. He was right. In Matsumoto Takeyoshi's opinion, no matter where Yifan went, he would bring him along. If the two of them were not on the warship at the same time, Matsumoto Takeyoshi would definitely be suspicious. Moreover, he was indeed afraid of water. The bottom of the sea was dark all year round, and it was tens of thousands of feet deep. He reckoned that he would faint from fright if he entered the water. At that time, he would become a burden to Yifan. So how could he be a helper? All right, I will tell you everything in the future. Don't be angry. Yifan patted Akatsuki's shoulder and said with a smile. Okay. Akatsuki nodded and responded. Because Yifan did not use his spiritual energy to protect Akatsuki, he did not activate the auspicious clouds to fly particularly fast this time. Instead, he maintained a moderate speed and flew in the air. After an hour, the auspicious clouds arrived above Shandong. Yifan landed the auspicious clouds in a place where there was no one, and then dispersed the auspicious clouds under his feet. Akatsuki put on the crystal mask and hugged Baihu from Yifan's shoulder. The two of them walked to the nearby street and began to wander around. It was still early, so there were not many people on the street. Let's find a place to eat first, then we can ask around about the Lee family fort. Yifan said to Akatsuki. Okay. Akatsuki nodded in agreement. Tea houses and taverns were a mix of good and bad people, so it was the best place to gather information. There's a tavern in front. Let's go there first. Yifan looked at a tavern that had just opened for business and said, Okay. As the two of them spoke, they slowly walked to the entrance of the tavern. The name of the tavern was Ku Yun Lai. It meant that customers came like clouds and business was booming. It was a 3-story wooden building, and it looked very exquisite. It was definitely not comparable to an ordinary tavern. Yifan walked in with Akatsuki. Compared to other taverns, there were relatively fewer people in this place, so it was very quiet. As the tavern had just opened for business, there were no customers in the tavern other than the waiter and the manager. Hey, good morning. The waiter saw that there were guests, so he immediately greeted them warmly. If you have anything good to eat, please bring it to the private room. Yifan took out a gold leaf and handed it to the waiter. He smiled and said, Keep the change. Akatsuki pursed her lips and smiled under the mask. Yifan's method of gathering information was always to use money, and it worked every time. Yes. I will do it right away. When the waiter saw Yifan take out a golden leaf, He immediately opened his eyes at the sight of money. He nodded and bowed as he took the golden leaf from Yifan. "Please come upstairs." The waiter politely walked in front of the stairs and led the way for the two of them. It was rare for him to have breakfast in a private room. "Please wait for a moment. The food will be ready soon, very soon." After bringing the two of them into the private room, the waiter respectfully left the room and hurriedly prepared the food. "How much money do you have? You're so extravagant. You spent a gold leaf for breakfast." Akatsuki smiled and asked Yifan, "I still have more than 10,000 taels of gold and more than 300 gold leaves." "That's enough." Yifan smiled. "It's good to have money." Akatsuki smiled and said, "Do you know that in Dongying, this gold leaf of yours is enough for an ordinary family of 3 to spend for half a year? Now, other than money and cultivation, I have nothing else to squander." Yifan looked down and muttered to himself. Akatsuki's heart ached when she heard that. She wanted to tell Yifan, "You still have me." But when the words were about to come out of her mouth, she swallowed them. After a short while, the waiter came in with a huge tray. On the tray, there were 8 dishes, 2 plates of pastries, a fruit platter, and a pot of good wine. How was this breakfast? It was clearly a banquet. Yifan shook his head and smiled bitterly when he saw that. It was said that the people of Shandong were honest, and this was indeed true. When he asked the waiter to serve the delicious food, he really did it. "Sir, these are our restaurant's signature dishes. Please try them and see if they are to your liking. If they are not to your liking, I will arrange for the kitchen to change them for you." The waiter said politely to Yifan as he placed the dishes on the table, "These dishes look delicious. There's no need to change them." Yifan smiled and said, "That's good. That's good." The waiter grinned. "Waiter, there's a place in Tai, and that I'd like to ask you about. Do you know about it?" Yifan began to cut to the chase. "You've asked the right person." When the waiter heard that Yifan wanted to ask him about the place, he immediately smiled and said, "I'm from Taiyan. As long as it's in Taiyan, I'm very familiar with it. Tell me, where is it?" "The Li family fort," Yifan said. Li family fort?" When the waiter heard the name from Yifan's mouth, his face instantly changed. "That's right, the Li clan's fort," Yu Hongji said. Obviously, they had asked the right person this time. "Sir, forgive me for being nosy, but that place is very evil now. You can't go there." The waiter lowered his voice and said mysteriously to Yifan and Akatsuki, "Can't go there? Why can't we go there?" Yifan pretended not to know and asked in return, "It's obvious that you're not from Taiyan, so you don't know anything about the Li family fort." The waiter said softly, "I heard that there's a monster there. Many magicians have been invited there, but they all went missing. Even the experts sent by Mount Longhu have gone missing. The people there are very worried. Apart from the old and the weak, almost everyone has moved out. No one dares to stay there. I advise you not to go there, in case you're captured by the monster." "What kind of monster is it? Why is it so powerful?" Yifan asked in return. "I don't know," the waiter said. "Everyone who went to subdue the monster has gone missing. Who knows what kind of monster it is?" "Is that place far from here?" Akatsuki asked. "It's not far, but it's not near either," the waiter replied. "About 200 miles east from here, there's a small river called Sanliwan. There's a village by the river, and there are 2 big poplar trees at the entrance of the village. That's the Li family fort. Why? Do you two really want to go there?" "We're going there to collect debts. We have to go there in person. Otherwise, we'll be breaking the rules." Yifan began to lie. "But there," the waiter said anxiously. Chapter 768. After enjoying a sumptuous breakfast, Yifan and Akatsuki found a secluded place and once again rose into the air. They stepped on the clouds and flew in the direction of the Li family fort. A distance of more than 200 miles was nothing to the cloud riding technique. In less than 10 minutes, Yifan stopped the auspicious clouds under his feet in the air. At this time, on the vast land below them, there was a bow-like river. The water of the river was clear and quietly flowing. Not far from the opposite side of the river, there were 2 extremely thick poplar trees. The ancient trees towered into the sky like a canopy. Behind the poplar trees, there were villages and streets. It seems that the village under our feet is the Leaf family fort that Xiao mentioned. Akatsuki looked at the river and the poplar trees below and turned to Yifan and said, at this time, her spiritual power was not what it used to be, so her eyesight was naturally much better than before. Yes, Yifan nodded and said. Then let's quickly go down and take a look, Akatsuki said. No hurry. Yifan looked at the village below and said, let's first circle around the Leaf family fort. Maybe we will find something. Yifan said, and once again urged the auspicious clouds to slowly move forward and circle around the village below. After a circle, Yifan stopped the auspicious clouds again. Tell me, what did you find? Yifan turned his head and asked Akatsuki. Not only did he want to increase Akatsuki's cultivation, but he also wanted to train her insight and reaction. This way, even if the two of them were separated in the future, he would not have to worry about Akatsuki's safety. What, are you testing me? Akatsuki looked at Yifan with her beautiful eyes and asked with a smile. Yifan smiled but did not say anything. This village is indeed strange. Akatsuki looked at the village below and said, oh, tell me about it, Yifan asked. Just as the waiter said, most of the people have moved away, leaving only the old, the weak, the sick, and the disabled here, Akatsuki said. How do you know? Yifan asked. It's time for breakfast. Normally, there should be smoke coming out of the chimneys of every household. But look, Akatsuki said as she pointed at the large number of houses below. Only a few houses in the village have smoke coming out of their chimneys. The rest of the houses are silent. This shows that the village is almost empty. Good analysis. Yifan nodded and smiled. What about the old, weak, sick, and disabled? That's even easier, Hongji replied with a smile. In the houses where there is smoke coming out of the kitchen, most of the clothes are hung up in the yard. From the color and style of the clothes, it can be seen that most of them are old people's clothes. Also, using common sense, people who can move away will move away. Only the old, weak, sick, and disabled do not have the ability to do so. That makes sense. Yifan smiled and asked, is there anything else? That's all I can see for now, Akatsuki replied. There are still clues that you haven't seen yet. Yifan smiled and looked at Akatsuki. Clues? Akatsuki asked in confusion. What clues? The monsters here did not disturb the people. At least, they did not take the initiative to hurt people. In other words, even if people died at the hands of these monsters, they deserved it. Yifan looked at the desertedly castle and said, why do you say that? Akatsuki was confused and asked, how do you know that the monsters did not take the initiative to hurt people and that they deserved it? Look at the hills south of the village. Yifan pointed at a hill below. Hill? Akatsuki asked as she looked in the direction Yifan was pointing. To the south of the Leaf family's fort, there was indeed a mountain. On top of the hill, there were raised tombs. Isn't this a mass grave? Does it have anything to do with what you just said? Akatsuki turned around and asked Yifan. There are only a few new tombs in the mass grave. The rest are all old tombs. Isn't that enough to explain the problem? Yifan asked Akatsuki. You mean? Akatsuki seemed to understand. Think about it. If the monster repeatedly killed people, there would be new tombs all over the hill. There wouldn't be only a few new tombs. Yifan explained. How do you know that the people buried in these new tombs are not those killed by the monster? Akatsuki asked. Besides, what if they built the tombs somewhere else? Judging from the size of the houses in Lee Castle, the population is at least 700 to 800. It's normal for there to be a few new tombs. Moreover, most of the tombstones in these new tombs are the names of the elders. The monsters take human lives for the flesh and soul. They specifically target young people and children. I've never heard of them taking the lives of the elderly. After hearing that, Akatsuki looked at the new tombs again and carefully looked at the words on the tombstones. Everything was as Yifan said. Most of the words on the tombstones were kind Father XX and kind Mother XX. The names of the descendants were all inscribed on the tombstones. As for building the tomb somewhere else, it is indeed possible. But don't forget, even if the tomb is built thousands of miles away, there will still be white banners hanging in the house to mourn the deceased. Look at the houses in this village. How many of them have white banners hanging in front of them? This. Akatsuki frowned and pondered. Taking a step back, if the monster here is really tormenting the living, why would the old, weak, sick, and disabled people stay here to wait for death? Even ants drag out a life, let alone humans. Yi Fan continued to explain, if the monster doesn't take human lives to increase its cultivation, it's a righteous monster. If the people killed by the righteous monster didn't deserve it, then what else could it be? Akatsuki was completely convinced. At first glance, Yi Fan's analysis could be said to be wildly imaginative and completely irrelevant. However, after careful consideration, it was closely linked and reasonable. Your analysis does make sense. But if it's a righteous monster, then why would the people move away? Akatsuki asked again. What do the people know? Yi Fan explained. As soon as they hear that it's a monster, of course they're scared. Plus, the sorcerers that we hired to subdue the monster are nowhere to be found. Anyone would be scared. Akatsuki nodded. She was sincerely impressed by Yi Fan's deductive ability. She could only see the surface of the matter from the same observation, but Yi Fan was able to deduce so many clues. Come, let's go down and take a look, Yi Fan said. He activated the auspicious clouds under his feet and slowly descended. He directly landed the auspicious clouds in front of the two big poplar trees in the Leaf family fort. It was early in the morning. Plus, there were few people in the Leaf family fort, so their arrival was not noticed by anyone. After dispersing the auspicious clouds, Yi Fan and Akatsuki walked into the Leaf family fort. Walking on the small path paved with fine stones, the two of them began to observe their surroundings. On both sides of the path, there were rows of houses and shops of different heights, but they were clean and tidy. There were many trees planted around the houses. It was lush green, and the environment was quiet. The sunlight from the sunrise passed through the branches and leaves and scattered on the two of them, making them look mottled. Being in the quiet environment, Akatsuki felt very comfortable. If it weren't for the houses and shops that were closed and locked, she wouldn't have thought that this was a place where monsters were. Baihu, who was curled up in Akatsuki's arms, stared with her clear eyes and looked around curiously. As they walked, Yi Fan suddenly stopped. He slowly turned around and looked at the entrance of the Leaf family fort. His eyes were as sharp as knives. Seeing Yi Fan turn around, Akatsuki instinctively turned around. There was nothing behind her. Everything was the same as before. What's wrong? Akatsuki asked Yi Fan. She knew that Yi Fan's 5 senses were very strong. He must have noticed something, so he stopped and turned around. Nothing, just overreacted, Yi Fan said calmly and gave Akatsuki a look. Akatsuki's beautiful eyes widened under the mask. She understood. Obviously, Yi Fan had noticed something, but he couldn't say it out loud. If she didn't guess wrong, Yi Fan had already seen that monster. And that monster was not far behind her. Although she had spiritual energy in her body, she was still immortal with the naked eye. She couldn't see ghosts or monsters. But Yi Fan was different. Not only did he have the overbearing spiritual energy of the heavenly tribulation, he also had the power of a devil monarch. Nothing in the yin-yang world could escape his eyes. Thinking that there was a pair of invisible eyes watching her from behind, Akatsuki felt her hair stand on end. She wanted to hold Yi Fan's arm, but she couldn't do so. Yi Fan didn't expose her because he wanted to pretend that he didn't notice that monster. And once she showed any signs of fear, that monster would know that it had been discovered. So what she could do now was to pretend that she didn't know anything. Thinking of this, Akatsuki immediately pretended that nothing had happened and said, "Oh, let's find a house with people first and ask about the situation," Yi Fan said calmly as he turned around and looked forward. "Okay," Akatsuki replied. The two of them didn't talk anymore. They walked straight to a house with smoke coming out of its chimney. Behind them, an inconspicuous little whirlwind appeared out of thin air and followed them at a distance. Yi Fan was well aware of what had happened behind his back. He had already passed the heavenly tribulation. The spiritual energy in his body contained the wrath of heavenly thunder and the power of thunder. Wherever he went, those big and small monsters would definitely be disturbed. The cultivation of the thing following behind him wasn't high. It was obvious that it wasn't the master of this place. If it was in the past, he definitely wouldn't tell Akatsuki this kind of thing in case she was afraid. But this time, he wanted to train Akatsuki's courage. It was still the same sentence. In the future, the two of them would definitely part ways. Only by training Akatsuki into a top expert would he be at ease. Chapter 769. The house was very spacious and occupied an area of more than 1 acre. The walls were all made of green stones, which were sturdy and ancient. What was a little surprising was that the door of this house was open, unlike the other houses in this area where the doors were locked. The house was filled with all kinds of flowers and plants. The fragrance of the flowers filled the air and the environment was quiet. In the innermost part of the house, there was a large antique house with carved beams and painted rafters. It was obvious that this was a rich family. But why didn't they move away? Were they not afraid of the monster? Thinking of this, Akatsuki inadvertently glanced behind her. She didn't know if the monster was still spying on them. But with Yifan by her side, she wasn't too worried. Is anyone here? Yifan reached out and grabbed the copper ring in the mouth of the copper line on the door. He gently knocked on the wooden door and asked loudly. Soon, an old man with a cane came out of the house. The old man looked to be in his 60s. His hair and beard were all white, but his face was ruddy. You are... The old man slowly walked in front of the two people. He looked at them from head to toe and asked suspiciously. Of the two people, one was young, but had a head full of silver hair. The other was wearing a mask that didn't show his face. He carried a red sword on his back and held a baihu in his arms. They looked very strange. The news of the monster in the Leaf family fort had already spread. There were only people who moved out. Who would come here? Uncle, may I ask if this is the Leaf family's fort? Yifan cupped his hands at the old man and asked politely. Yes, the old man replied. You are... Oh, we heard that there was a monster here, so we came here to subdue the monster. Yifan replied. Seeing that there was someone here, we took the liberty to come here and ask you about the monster. Subdue the monster? You are also here to subdue the monster? When the old man heard that the two were here to subdue the monster, he immediately frowned and asked, Yes, uncle. Yifan smiled and said to the old man, I think you'd better leave this place quickly. You're still young. Don't throw your lives away here. The old man said earnestly to the two of them. The people who came before all said that they were very powerful and that they could easily exorcise ghosts and catch demons. But in the end, they were nowhere to be found. The two of you are so young, it's obvious that your cultivation is not very high. Let's not bother about this matter. Go. Uncle, you're wrong, Yifan said to the old man with a smile. The level of cultivation has nothing to do with age. Neza was able to kill the third prince at the age of 7. And Xinxiang was able to split a mountain to save her mother at the age of 16. Aren't they all young? I'm already in my 20s. Why do you say that I can't? The old man was at a loss for words. He didn't expect this young man to be so eloquent and full of fallacious reasoning. Uncle, just trust him this once. He's very capable. Akatsuki continued and said to the old man, Don't be fooled by his young age. There are many demons that have been defeated by him. This time, he'll definitely be able to solve this matter by coming to the Leaf family fort. He subdued demons? There are many more? The old man said to Akatsuki suspiciously. I don't believe you. This young man was quite good-looking, but subduing demons depended on real ability, not looks. Uncle, listen to me. Akatsuki still wanted to explain. Yifan held out his hand, indicating that Akatsuki didn't need to say anything more. Uncle, since you don't believe us, then we won't force you. Goodbye. Yifan saluted the old man and said. As Yifan spoke, he gently waved his sleeves. Whoosh, clouds suddenly rose from beneath the two of them. Auspicious clouds were born. The auspicious clouds lifted the two of them off the ground and went straight up into the sky. When the old man saw this, he instantly turned pale with fright. He hurriedly threw his staff to the side and immediately knelt down on the ground. He sincerely bowed and kowtowed to the two people in the sky. Exalted immortals, this old man's eyes are mortal. I have eyes, but no pupils. I didn't recognize exalted immortals. Please forgive me, forgive me. The old man said in fear and trepidation as he kowtowed. In his opinion, these two people were immortals from the heaven realm. Otherwise, how could they ride the clouds? Akatsuki, who was in the sky, pursed her lips and smiled. Yi Fan's move had convinced the old man below, and he thought that the two of them were immortals from the heaven realm. Please forgive me, exalted immortals. Please forgive me, the old man said in tears. Yi Fan slowly lowered the auspicious clouds again. Uncle, we are humans, not immortals. Get up, get up. Yi Fan reached out and helped the old man up. He had achieved his goal. You two are really not immortals? The old man stood up and wiped his tears as he asked the two of them. Not all people who can ride the clouds are immortals. Yi Fan bent down and picked up the staff. He handed it to the old man and said with a smile, Now you believe that he is very capable, right, Uncle? Akatsuki smiled and asked the old man. Yes, yes. The old man nodded like a chick pecking at rice. Quick, don't just stand here. Please come in, please come in. As the old man spoke, he invited the two of them into the courtyard. He led the way in front, while Yi Fan and Akatsuki followed behind. What is your surname? Yi Fan looked around the courtyard and asked the old man as they walked. This old man's surname is Li, the old man replied. Out of the 10 people in the Li family fort, 9 of them have the surname Li. Yi Fan nodded. Uncle, you live alone? Akatsuki asked. I have an old woman with a bad leg. She is lying in the house. The old man replied to Akatsuki. Seeing that your family is so well off, why don't you move out like the others? Akatsuki asked the question in her heart. The two of you may not know, but the demon in the Leaf family fort is not like what the outside world says, the old man said. Although the spiritual creature is a demon, it never disturbs the people. Those people who were looking for the treasure angered it, and that's why they got into trouble. As for those who came to subdue the demon, they didn't understand the reason behind it, and their skills were not as good as the demon. That's why they ended up nowhere to be found. I don't do anything wrong, so I won't be alarmed if I knock on the door in the middle of the night. Why would I move out? Besides, the tree is 1,000 feet tall, and the fallen leaves return to their roots. I'm already over 70 years old, and my legs are not good. I can't take it anymore. Akatsuki's heart skipped a beat when she heard that. Everything was as Yi Fan had predicted. Old man, what about your children? Aren't they worried about the two of you? Yi Fan asked. I have 3 sons, and they are all low-ranking officers in the army. Now, they have been sent to the border by the imperial court. Sigh, the old man sighed. In comparison, we miss them more. Yi Fan fell silent after hearing that. The 3 sons of this old man, regardless of whether they were under Zhou Dao's command or the imperial court's command, would inevitably participate in the war in the future. If things went wrong, it was very likely that they would lose their lives on the battlefield. Akatsuki also sighed and didn't say anything. The 3 of them walked into the main house while talking. Old woman, we have important guests. Come out and welcome them, the old man shouted as soon as he entered the house. Coming, coming. Just as the old man's voice fell, an old woman's voice came from the house. Immediately after, the door curtain was lifted, and an old woman with crutches walked out of the house with difficulty. The old woman's silver hair was neatly combed, and her face was benevolent and kind. She supported her body with one leg and dragged the other leg on the ground. It was very inconvenient. Greetings to the 2 important guests. The old woman nodded to the 2 of them. Old woman is too polite. It should be this junior who salutes you. Yi Fan said respectfully to the old woman. My old woman's leg is not good, so I can't serve the 2 important guests. Sit wherever you please. The old woman gestured for the 2 of them to sit. Yi Fan stood there and carefully observed the old woman's injured leg. He was using his X-ray vision to see the meridians in the old woman's leg. Sir? Sir? The old man saw Yi Fan's gaze and immediately greeted him. "Old man, don't disturb him. He is diagnosing Auntie's leg." Akatsuki stopped the old man and said in a low voice, You mean my old woman's leg can be cured?" The old man asked in surprise. "Sure, of course it can." Akatsuki signaled for the old man to be quiet and continued. Yifan's sky demon power could reconstruct with a drop of blood. Curing a pair of legs was a piece of cake. How did Annie's leg get injured? Why are there shattered rocks in it? Yifan turned his head and asked the old man. "Sir, you're really amazing. My family's old lady's leg was injured by the flying gravel from a mountain." The old man said excitedly to Yifan. This young man was really not ordinary. He could see the clues at a glance. Several of the meridians in Auntie's leg were severed by the shattered rocks. Yifan said the shattered rocks were embedded in her leg bone, so Auntie is unable to walk. "Sir, I beg you. You have great means. Please save my old woman." When the old man heard Yifan's words, he immediately knelt on the ground and kowtowed to Yifan. "Old man, quickly get up." Yifan quickly helped the old man up and said, "Since I have encountered it, I will not let it go." Thank you, sir," the old man said with red eyes. "Hongji, help Annie sit down. I will treat Annie," Yifan said to Akatsuki. "Okay." Akatsuki responded and put down Baihu. She quickly walked to the old woman and helped her sit down. "Old man, go get a basin of hot water and prepare a clean towel." Yifan turned his head and said to the old man, AI. The old man wiped his tears and hurriedly went to prepare. In a short time, the hot water and towel were ready. "Hongji, hold Annie's leg. I will take out the shattered rocks first," Yifan said. Akatsuki nodded and squatted down to press on the old woman's injured leg. "Old woman, bear with it. Sir's treating your leg." The old man comforted the old woman. The old woman nodded as if she understood. Although she did not know how Yifan was going to take out the shattered rocks from her leg, she could feel that this young man was not an ordinary person. Looking at Yifan again, he stretched out one hand toward the old woman's injured leg and bent his 5 fingers slightly. Puff! With a spurt of blood, a scarlet object rushed out of the old woman's leg and flew into Yifan's hand. Chapter 770. Below the old woman's right knee, there was a bloody hole the size of a thumb that was constantly bleeding out. The blood was black and smelled foul. "Uncle, help Annie squeeze out the clotted blood from the wound until the blood turns red," Yifan said to the old man. Yes. The old man hurriedly responded and quickly walked to the old woman. He then squatted down and reached out to squeeze the clotted blood from the old woman's wound. Yifan looked at the broken stone in his hand that was soaked in blood and casually put it aside. As the clotted blood flowed out, the old woman's trousers were quickly dyed red. Because of the unbearable pain and the excessive blood loss, the old woman's face gradually lost color. Cold sweat poured out and her skin turned white. Her lips trembled as she endured the piercing pain. She clenched her teeth and insisted on not fainting. It was obvious that this old woman was a stubborn girl when she was young. After a while, the blood that flowed out of the old woman's wound was no longer black and red. Instead, it turned bright red. The foul stench was no longer emitted. "Uncle, it's done," Yifan said as he gestured for the old man to stop. The old man immediately let go. "Hongji, hold Annie's leg," Yifan said to Akatsuki. Akatsuki nodded and held the old woman's leg tightly with both hands. After arranging everything, Yifan activated the sky demon's power in his body. Whoosh! He pinched his fingers together and pointed at the old woman's wound. Chirp! A blood-red light, as thick as a thumb, shot out from Yifan's finger and directly into the old woman's wound. The blood-red light was incomparably bright and illuminated the entire room with red light. The old man, surnamed Li, was completely stunned by the scene in front of him. This person was so young, but he was so skilled. What was even rarer was that although this young man was so powerful and skilled, he was kind-hearted and did not put on airs at all. The old woman groaned. Large beads of sweat continuously dripped from her forehead. Whoosh! Yi Fan withdrew his hand and returned it to his body. Then, a miraculous scene appeared. Within the bloody hole that was as thick as a thumb, blood, flesh, tendons, and bones began to regenerate at a speed visible to the naked eye. White was the bone, green was the tendons, pink was the flesh, and red was the blood. The old man's mouth was half open, as if he was in a dream. He originally thought that even if Yi Fan could heal the old woman's injuries, the old woman would need to rest for a few days before she could fully recover. He never thought that this young man's ability was so powerful that he could actually regenerate flesh and blood. Whoosh! After the red light dissipated, the old woman's wound was completely healed. There was not a single trace of injury. "Auntie, you can try standing up and see if you can move," Yi Fan said to the old woman. Stand up? Now. The old woman asked Yi Fan in shock. She was half lying on the chair, completely unaware that her wound had already healed. "That's right now," Yi Fan said as he looked at Akatsuki. "Hongji, help Annie up." Akatsuki nodded and helped the old woman up. "Old man, give me the crutches," the old woman said to the old man. "No need, Auntie. Your leg is completely healed. You could try it if you don't believe me," Akatsuki said to the old woman with a smile. It's healed." The old woman still couldn't believe it. "You'll know when you try it," Yi Fan said with a smile. "Old woman, sir asked you to try it, so just try it. Sir is an expert. Would he lie to you?" The old man said anxiously. Okay, I'll try it, the old woman said doubtfully as she slowly placed her right foot on the ground. The moment she stood up, the old woman's face was instantly filled with shock. At this moment, her right leg had completely recovered its feeling and strength. It was even more powerful than her left leg. She took a few steps forward and her face was flushed with excitement. "Old man, my leg is healed. My leg is healed," the old woman said to the old man like a child. When the old man saw that his wife's leg had recovered, he was so excited that he kept wiping his tears. Quickly thank our benefactor," the old man said to the old woman while choking with sobs. Thank you, benefactor. Thank you, benefactor." The old woman only just came back to her senses at this moment. She said while preparing to kneel down and kowtow to Yi Fan. "You're already so old, yet you're still kowtowing to me. My life will be shortened." Yi Fan held the old woman and said with a smile, "It's just a small matter. You don't have to be so polite. Old man, help Annie wipe the blood with hot water and then change your clothes. Don't catch a cold." Yes. After the old man heard it, he immediately responded and took the old woman to the inner room. "You've done another good deed today. Your merit is boundless." After the old couple left, Akatsuki said to Yi Fan with a smile, "You're already so old, yet you don't have any children by your side to fulfill your filial piety. It's quite pitiful." Yi Fan said, When you kill people, you're as cold as ice like the frost dragon's sword. When you save people, you're as passionate as the flame parting sword. I really don't know which one is the real you." Akatsuki said as she slowly walked in front of the copper basin filled with hot water. She drained the towel on top of it and handed it to Yi Fan. "Both of them are me. Or should I say, both of them aren't me." Yi Fan took the hot towel from Akatsuki and said, while wiping the dirty blood off his hands. He said this from the bottom of his heart. Who he was right now, he couldn't say for sure. Was he eldritch? He wasn't. If he was eldritch, he naturally wouldn't resist the innate evil energy in his body. Eldritch's evil energy. Was he the Demon King? He wasn't. Although he sat on the throne of the Demon King, he didn't have any connection to the Demon King except for the heavenly demon's power. The Demon King lured people into becoming demons, but he had never done so, nor did he want to do so. Was he the Yi Fan of the past? He wasn't. The Yi Fan of the past had a simple personality and was a rash kid. He was simple, kind-hearted, and never bloodthirsty. But now hundreds of people had died at his hands. Speaking of which, if he was still Yi Fan, why would he announce to the world during the Demon Slaying Conference and add the word no in the middle of his name? So strictly speaking, he was everyone, but also no one. After Akatsuki heard this, she didn't say anything. She agreed with what Yi Fan said, even though it sounded very contradictory. As the two of them were thinking, the old couple walked out. After another round of endless thanks, everyone sat down in their respective host and guest seats. The old woman hadn't learned how to walk for decades. Now that her legs were convenient and her footsteps were light, it was inevitable that she couldn't stop. She served tea, fruits, incense, and pastries. She was very busy. Seeing this, Yi Fan was only polite and didn't stop her. If it were anyone else, they probably wouldn't be able to stop. "Uncle, tell us more about that demon." Yi Fan picked up his teacup and took a sip before asking the old man sitting opposite him. "Speaking of that demon, we have to start from 60 years ago." When the old man heard Yi Fan ask about it, he immediately said, "At that time, I had just turned 10 years old. It was the age when I could remember things." The old man took a sip of tea and continued, "I remember very clearly that it was a summer night. It was hot as hell, and there wasn't even a hint of wind. My father and I couldn't stand the stuffy heat in the house, so we laid out bamboo mats in the courtyard and lit mosquito-repellent grass. We slept in the open air for the sake of cooling down. At first, we slept well, but in the middle of the night, a strange wind suddenly blew from the beautiful sky, full of stars. Dark clouds covered the sky, and sand and stones flew everywhere. I've never seen anything like that before. It immediately blew us awake and scared me to death." As the old man spoke, his expression changed slightly. It was obvious that this incident had left a deep impression on him. "Strange wind?" Yi Fan frowned and asked. "What kind of strange wind was it?" The weather was changeable in summer, so it was normal for there to be a sudden storm. There was a long black whirlwind in the sky, circling back and forth in the air, the old man said. There were also 2 green lanterns in the whirlwind. They shone for 100 feet and were green and lustrous. In addition, the wind was mixed with a strong, fishy smell. Yi Fan and Akatsuki looked at each other and did not speak. Clearly, the 2 green lanterns were the eyes of that demon. What happened after that? Yi Fan continued to ask. "My father and I were scared to death. We didn't even roll up the mat and ran straight into the house. We closed the door and windows and used wooden sticks to block the door. We didn't even dare to breathe loudly." The old man said with lingering fear, "That night, there was a storm outside. The storm was like a sudden storm. Lightning flashed and thunder roared. Our family didn't dare to sleep and stayed up until the sun came out before we left." "What happened after we left? What happened?" Akatsuki asked. "After my father left, he rushed directly to the crop field with the other villagers," the old man replied. "The crop field?" Akatsuki asked doubtfully. "This young lady may not know, but compared to a demon in the castle, we were more afraid of a crop failure," the old man explained to Akatsuki. "At that time, the wheat was in a state of shortage. If it was uprooted by the storm, the year's harvest would be over and people would starve to death." Akatsuki slowly nodded. Food was the most important thing for the people. For the common people, food was always the most important thing because it concerned the livelihood of the whole family. When we arrived at the crop field, my father sat down on the ground and was so scared that his face turned pale, the old man said. "What happened?" Yi Fan asked. "All the wheat in the village is as good as new. Only a few of our wheat fields have been damaged," the old man said. "Most of the wheat fields have been turned into crooked gullies more than 5 feet wide. All the wheat has been uprooted and mixed in the soil. It's a mess. That demon should be a snake demon. It took advantage of the torrential rain to wander around your family's wheat fields. That's why it destroyed your wheat," Yi Fan deduced. Chapter 771. Turning Point? What turning point? Akatsuki asked curiously. "The day after my father and I both fell ill, my mother got up early in the morning and prepared to go to the well at the entrance of the village to fetch water. Who would have thought that as soon as she opened the door, she would find 2 shining silver ingots on the stone mill in her courtyard. Next to them was an old ginseng that was about half a foot long." The old man said, At first, my mother thought that her eyes were playing tricks on her and that she was daydreaming. Later, she went forward to pick up the items and carefully looked at them. Only then did she realize that she was not dreaming. The ingots were real, and each one was worth 50 taels. The ginseng was also real, and it was at least 100 years old. Could it be that these things were sent by that monster? Yi Fan asked in return. Teacher really guessed correctly. The old man looked at Yi Fan and said, those 100 taels of silver and the 100-year-old ginseng were really sent by that spirit. How do you know? Akatsuki asked. On those 2 ingots, there were 2 lines of words written on them. The old man turned his head to look at Akatsuki and said with a deep gaze, what was written on them? Yi Fan asked. The first ingot wrote, on the stormy night, I mistakenly destroyed your grain, worried your husband, frightened your son. The old man slowly said. The second ingot wrote, forced to do so, in fear and trepidation, an old ginseng, 100 taels of silver. After hearing this, Yi Fan nodded. Obviously, that monster knew that destroying people's fields and disturbing the common people was a big mistake, so it used spiritual medicine and silver to compensate this family for their loss. Furthermore, it used the words in fear and trepidation to express its apology. Sure enough, it was a righteous monster. Akatsuki muttered to herself and nodded. My mother used that ginseng to make a medicinal soup for me and my father and fed it to us. The next day, we were all healed. The old man continued. Later, my father used the 100 taels of silver to start a stone business and gradually made a fortune. In detail, without that spirit, we would not be able to live such a good life. What happened after that? Yi Fan asked. What happened after that? After this incident was over, everything returned to normal. However, from then on, my family's crops were harvested every year. Even if we encountered natural disasters like droughts and floods, it didn't affect the harvest in the slightest. The old man continued. Others don't know the inside story, but our family is very clear in our hearts. We know that the spirit item is repaying its debt of gratitude. As the old man spoke, he picked up the porcelain cup and took a sip of tea. Yi Fan did not say anything and continued to listen to the old man. Since then, our family has become a monster in this castle. The rumors have never stopped. Sigh. The old man put down the teacup and sighed. What rumors? Akatsuki asked. Since my family's wheat fields were destroyed, the business has been smooth sailing. It can be said that we became rich overnight. In addition, our family's fertile fields have always produced good harvests, which is very different from other people's crops. Of course, it is inevitable that there will be people gossiping behind our backs. Some say that there is a monster hiding in our family. Some say that the monster's aura is soaring to the sky, and all kinds of gossip. The old man said, later, if it weren't for my 3 sons obtaining positions in the army, the villagers of the Leaf family fort would have driven us out of this place. Yi Fan nodded slightly after hearing this. As the saying goes, a tree that stands out in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. The villagers were not talking about monsters and ghosts, but they were jealous and envious. Human nature was evil, and it was not completely unreasonable. What do you mean by inviting people to catch monsters? Yi Fan asked the old man. What about the treasure you mentioned just now? About 3 months ago, a group of people suddenly came to the fort. There were about 10 of them. The old man said to Yi Fan, these people were burly and had fierce expressions. They all carried bulging bags on their backs, and some even had swords. One look, and you could tell that they were not good people. Among these people, the leader was a young man who looked like a geomancer. He held a compass in his hand and a prayer bead around his neck. He was dressed like a monk. He brought these people to the fort to buy a lot of food, and then went to the treasured Cauldron Mountain that night. Treasured Cauldron Mountain? After hearing these 3 words, Yi Fan's eyes lit up and he asked, from a name of this mountain, it should be related to the 9 cauldrons. Yes, the treasured Cauldron Mountain, the old man replied. Uncle, please continue. Akatsuki continued and asked, what happened after the geomancer brought these people to the mountain? After hearing this, the old man took a deep breath and then exhaled heavily. He did not directly answer. These people were found the next morning by the people who went into the mountain to cut firewood. They were all dead. Not a single one was left. The old woman who had been silent all this time saw that the old man did not speak and directly said, "Dead?" Yifan frowned and asked, "How did they die?" Their stomachs were cut open, and their brains were smeared on the ground. They were torn apart. The old woman frowned and said. After hearing this, Akatsuki felt a wave of disgust. Each of their broken arms and hands held a sheepskin map. The old woman continued. "What map was that?" Yifan asked. "Treasure map." The old man who had been silent suddenly spoke. "Treasure map? What treasure?" Akatsuki asked. The map in the hands of those people only marked the location of the treasured Cauldron Mountain with the word cauldron written on it. As for what treasure it is, that is unknown. The old man replied, "According to the rumors outside, there is a golden cauldron hidden in the treasured Cauldron Mountain. It is made of pure gold and weighs hundreds of thousands of kilograms. There are also people who say that a large portion of Shun Wansan's wealth is hidden in this mountain. The cauldron written on the treasure map is actually the treasure basin." From then on, the news of the treasure hidden in the treasured Cauldron Mountain of the Leaf family spread. Almost every day, there are people who go in to search for the treasure. The old woman said to Yifan, "Unfortunately, many people go in, but few come out. Although many people came out alive, their minds were not clear. They cried and laughed at the same time, going crazy. Sai, just because of this, they asked people to subdue the demon?" Yifan asked with a frown. "That's not it." The old woman continued. "The reason why the villagers asked people to subdue the demon was because the lady boss of the tavern at the entrance of the village was swallowed by a demon." Swallowed? Akatsuki asked with a frown. "That lady boss's surname is also Li. Her name is Li Saiha. She is a widow in her 20s and has no children." The old man explained, "Her ancestors have been running taverns for generations. Her tavern is considered to be a century-old tavern." The old man explained, "One night, half a month ago, someone saw with their own eyes a green snake as thick as a water tank crawl in her pub from the entrance of the village. Li Saiha, who was about to close her pub, was swallowed." As the old man spoke, he swallowed a mouthful of saliva. "Who saw this? Is it true?" Yifan asked with a frown. In his opinion, this demon was extremely benevolent and righteous. It could not be compared to those common demons that tormented the common people. Destroying a few acres of wheat fields would cause it to feel fear and trepidation. How could it possibly do something as cruel as swallowing a living person? Therefore, after the old man finished speaking, Yifan began to doubt the authenticity of this matter. "There can't be any mistake." The old man replied to Yifan, "This matter was witnessed by a lecherous scoundrel in the castle. He has always been lusting after Li Saiha's beauty. That night, he drank wine and prepared to take advantage of the darkness of the night to take advantage of Li Hua. Who would have thought that not only did he fail, he was almost scared to death. When he came back, he was rolling and crawling, unable to even stand up. A scoundrel's words are simply not trustworthy." Yifan shook his head. He still did not believe that the demon would do such a thing for no reason. "Sir, you may not know this. Perhaps that scoundrel's words were false, but the traces of the green snake's crawling were not the slightest bit off." The old woman said to Yifan, "On the night of the incident, the strong men in the castle gathered together, lit torches with pine oil, and rushed to the tavern at the entrance of the village. There, they saw with their own eyes the gully that the giant snake had crawled through, stretching from the entrance of the village all the way to the treasured Tripod Mountain." There was such a thing? Yifan heard the old woman's words and could not help but mutter in his heart. All signs indicated that the matter of Li Hua being swallowed by the giant snake was indeed true. When this matter came out, the villagers were in an uproar. They clamored to spend money to hire experts to subdue the demon. The old man said, "Sir, you must have heard of what happened after that. No matter if it was a witch, a deity, or an eminent monk, no matter who came, it was useless. They all disappeared without a trace. In the end, everyone panicked and fled the Leaf family fort. Sigh, what a sin! It is indeed very puzzling. After hearing the whole story, Akatsuki said, "Where is the treasured tripod mountain, and how far is it from here?" Yifan asked the old man. "Not far," the old man replied. "If you head north from here, you'll reach it about 100 miles away. In that case, let's make a trip to the treasured tripod mountain." Yifan looked at Akatsuki and said, Akatsuki nodded. As the two spoke, they stood up. "You're going now?" Seeing that the two were about to leave, the old man hurriedly stood up from the armchair and asked anxiously. He did not expect the two to leave in such a hurry, leaving as soon as they said so. The sooner this matter is settled, the better. Otherwise, undue delay may lead to trouble. Yifan said to the old man with a double meaning. "You can rest here for the night first. Let this old woman do her best as a host. Tomorrow, I will prepare a carriage for you and bring enough dry food. It won't be too late to go then." The old woman said anxiously. She did not know that Yifan had the ability to ride the clouds. "What do you know? Sir knows how to ride the clouds. We'll be able to cover 100 miles in the blink of an eye." The old man turned his head and said anxiously to the old woman. The old woman stared at the old man, stunned. Whoosh! Just as the two were looking at each other, Yifan pressed on Akatsuki's shoulder and disappeared in a flash. Seeing this, the old woman immediately staggered and almost fell down in shock. Chapter 772. Above the clouds, Yifan and Akatsuki, who was carrying Baihu, stepped on the clouds and flew towards the north. "What do you think about this matter?" Yifan turned his head and asked Akatsuki. Firstly, he wanted to ask Akatsuki's opinion to expand his own train of thought. Secondly, he wanted to train Akatsuki's ability to adapt. "In my opinion, that green snake is not a demon that poisons the people. There must be another reason why it swallowed that leaked Saiha." Akatsuki looked at Yifan and answered, "Furthermore, that green snake must be related to the treasure in the treasured cauldron mountain. As for whether that treasure is the treasured cauldron, I don't know. What do you think about that snake demon's temper?" Yifan continued to ask Akatsuki. From the way that group of people died, that snake demon's temper should not be small. Akatsuki frowned and said, "Just like you, it hates evil." Yifan was first startled when he heard this. Then he smiled. Did I say something wrong?" Akatsuki felt that she had said something wrong and hurriedly turned her head to ask Yifan. "You didn't say anything wrong." Yifan smiled and said, "Your deduction is very accurate. That snake demon is just like me. It hates evil and is ruthless. You are ruthless, but your heart is not ruthless," Akatsuki said. Yifan smiled and did not reply. The auspicious clouds moved as fast as lightning, and they covered a distance of 100 miles in the blink of an eye. On the ground beneath their feet, a towering mountain stood there quietly. This mountain was steep, and its cliffs were cut into peaks. It was covered in dense forests and overgrown with vegetation. Under the cover of the white morning fog, it appeared rather mysterious. "It seems that this is the treasure cauldron mountain." Akatsuki looked at the mountain below and said. Yifan did not say anything. Instead, he immediately stopped the auspicious clouds and narrowed his eyes to look below. "What's wrong?" Akatsuki immediately asked when she saw Yifan's expression. It was obvious that Yifan had discovered something. "I didn't expect him to come too." Yifan muttered to himself. He saw a person who could not be called an acquaintance. Who's here?" Akatsuki asked in confusion. The headmaster of the sect, Zhang Xiaoyang. Yifan turned his head and said to Akatsuki. "Zhang Xiaoyang?" Yu Hongji asked. Yifan nodded. "What is he doing here?" Yu Hongji asked. She had a deep impression of this person. During the demon-slaying conference, this person was with the Chuanjin sect leader, Yu Xingchen, and had directly defended Yifan from being besieged. His cultivation level was unfathomable. The disciple of the celestial master abode failed to subdue the demon and went missing instead. The celestial master abode naturally won't let this matter go. However, I didn't expect him to come personally this time. Yi Fan frowned. What? Aren't you happy that he's here? Akatsuki asked Yi Fan in confusion. Zhang Xiaoyang was an upright person. He was carefree and did not bother about trifles. He had helped Yi Fan before. When Yi Fan saw this person, he should be happy. Why was he frowning? Akatsuki couldn't understand. Don't forget, the imperial court once gave a decree to the various sects to search for the 9 cauldrons. Yi Fan turned to Akatsuki and said, "Do you still remember the 1,000 ghost formation at the Sisui River?" Akatsuki was shocked when she heard this. She understood why Yi Fan was frowning. Yi Fan was worried that once Zhang Xiaoyang learned that there was a divine cauldron here, he would immediately report this matter to the imperial court. The imperial court would definitely mobilize a large force to search for the cauldrons. However, that decree was a fake one sent by Xuanji. It was not the will of the old emperor. Moreover, Zhang Xiaoyang was strongly opposed to the 1,000 Ghost formation and did not participate in the search for the cauldrons at the Sisui River. Yi Fan did not have to worry about this matter at all. When Akatsuki thought of this, she told Yi Fan her doubts. "Your thinking is too simple." Yi Fan shook his head with a solemn expression and said slowly, "As the saying goes, times are different. Back then, Xuanji used the Son of Heaven to control the imperial court. Now, the Emperor Star is in charge of the imperial court. They are two completely different things. Moreover, the decree to search for the 9 cauldrons was not revoked by the Crown Prince. As long as the decree is not revoked, the various sects cannot slack off. The Emperor Star's descent into the mortal world is a blessing for the country. All the sects will do their best to assist in accordance with the will of heaven, including Zhang Xiaoyang." "Why didn't the Crown Prince revoke that decree?" Akatsuki asked in confusion. "That was a fake decree sent by Xuanji." "You don't understand," Yi Fan said calmly. "As the saying goes, the one who obtains the 9 cauldrons obtains the world. To the past emperors, obtaining the 9 cauldrons represents imperial power bestowed by the heavens. It represents the approval of the heavens. Now that the Crown Prince is facing the crisis of the 4 kingdoms, of course he hopes to obtain the 9 cauldrons so that the 4 seas will be at peace and the 10,000 kingdoms will come to court. It is because of this that he did not revoke that decree. Doesn't that divine cauldron have an extremely powerful enchantment? Even if the imperial court really knows that there's a divine cauldron in this treasure cauldron mountain, what can they do?" Akatsuki continued to ask. "You underestimate the power of the imperial court too much," Yi Fan continued to explain. "As the saying goes, the Holy Son of Heaven is protected by all spirits. Now that the Emperor Star is in charge of the imperial court, all the powers will gather under his command, responding to the will of the heavens and the will of the people. Even a despicable person like Lu Yuanshan does not dare to disobey the Crown Prince's decree. Now, as long as the Emperor Star gives the order, all the sects will definitely do their best. Although the enchantment of the Divine Cauldron is powerful, if all the experts of the Tao sects really gather all their powers, breaking the enchantment of the Divine Cauldron is not impossible. But that time at the Sisui River, I did not see how powerful those so-called sect masters were," Akatsuki said. In her opinion, those sect masters did not even know the cloud writing technique. Even if they gathered in one place, they would not be able to break the enchantment of the Divine Cauldron. "You are wrong again." Yi Fan looked at Akatsuki and said calmly, "Those Tao sect masters are not the top experts of their sections. Although they are in the position of sect master, they can only be considered as the managers of their sects, and not the ones who have achieved it. The true experts of their sects usually do not appear so easily. The two of them were like clothes that blocked the wind and cold. Those Taoist sect masters were the face of the clothes. They looked good on the outside, but were useless on the inside. On the other hand, those experts were the inner layer of the clothes. They secretly supported the rise and fall of the entire Taoist sect. This is only the various sects not counting the Tao sect experts who were itinerant cultivators. If these true experts were to join forces, the power they released could completely reach the level of immortal power. Even the enchantment of the divine cauldron would be broken. Is there really such an expert in the Tao sect? Akatsuki asked Yi Fan in shock. Of course there is. I have personally experienced it. As Yi Fan spoke, he told Akatsuki about the Inji Taoist and the Jinji Taoist when he was rescuing Xiao Zhao in the Great Snow Mountain of Tibet. Akatsuki nodded slowly. Before coming to the Great Ming Dynasty, her master, Gu Qingyi, had specially told her that there were many experts in the Great Ming Dynasty and that there were hidden dragons and crouching tigers. Yi Fan's words made her understand the ancient saying, "The wise do not show their true colors." This is not what I'm most worried about, Yi Fan said with a serious expression. Once the imperial court knows that there is a divine cauldron here, Matsumoto Takeyoshi will definitely find out about it. In that case, wouldn't we be helping Matsumoto Takeyoshi? I didn't think of that, Akatsuki said with a frown. Remember, Matsumoto Takeyoshi's strength is not as simple as you think. Yi Fan said to Akatsuki, his strength does not only include these experts, the Black Feather Army and the Ninja Army. His true core strength is Xie Tian, who is supporting him from behind. Since he dared to come to the Great Ming Dynasty to find the 9 cauldrons, he has naturally done his homework. As long as he finds the location of the divine cauldrons, he will definitely have a way to break the enchantment of the divine cauldrons. If Matsumoto Takeyoshi is a tiger, then what he's showing now is only a kitten. Yi Fan's words made Akatsuki's heart jump. Yi Fan's analysis was so accurate that Akatsuki could not help but sigh. This man's rapid growth was not as simple as his cultivation. His analytical skills and judgment skills were also rapidly increasing. Then what should we do now? Do we still want to go down? Akatsuki asked Yi Fan. Zhang Xiaoyang's Taoist skills are profound. He has already discovered our whereabouts, so of course we have to go down. Yi Fan turned his head to look down and said, "Moreover, since we have met, how can we not meet?" As Yi Fan spoke, he flicked his sleeve and urged the auspicious clouds to slowly descend. At the foot of the Treasure Cauldron Mountain, Zhang Xiaoyang, who was wearing a golden Taoist robe, was standing in a pavilion. He had a serious expression as he looked up at the white, auspicious clouds slowly descending from the sky. Just as Yi Fan had predicted, he had already sensed Yi Fan's aura. The auspicious clouds above his head were rising with the power of heavenly thunder, but there was also the appearance of a demon spirit, revealing an evil aura. Who else could it be other than the demon king Yi Fan, who had survived the heavenly tribulation and was full of evil aura? Like Yi Fan, Zhang Xiaoyang was also puzzled by Yi Fan's appearance. This time, he came to the Treasure Cauldron Mountain for no other reason than his disciple, who came here to subdue the demon. That disciple of his was one of his favorite disciples. His Taoist skills were not bad, and he had even mastered the 5 Thunder Palm, which allowed him to release lightning with his hands. Of course, the lightning he released could not be compared to heavenly thunder at all. It could only be released 30 feet away, which was only enough to split a small tree as thick as a bowl. However, to ordinary demons, this was already considered a catastrophe. Although the difference in power between the two was like heaven and earth, they were both thunder techniques, and there was no difference. A demon that could defeat a Taoist master who had mastered the 5 Thunder Palm was naturally not comparable to an ordinary demon. Therefore, when he heard that his favorite disciple had disappeared without a trace, the fiery Zhang Xiaoyang personally came to the Li family fort. After asking about the details of the incident, Zhang Xiaoyang came to the Treasure Cauldron Mountain. Just as he was about to climb the mountain to search for the demon, he felt Yi Fan's aura. What shocked him was that Yi Fan's body not only had evil aura and demon spirit, but also the domineering, innate, fiendish qi. What exactly did this young man go through? How did the innate, fiendish qi enter his body? Zhang Xiaoyang was shocked. Chapter 773. Junior Yi Buffon greets Senior Zhang. After dispersing the auspicious clouds beneath his feet, Yi Fan bowed respectfully to Zhang Xiaoyang. Immeasurable heavenly lord. Zhang Xiaoyang greeted Yi Fan with a Taoist bow and said, "You are now the Devil Lord. You don't have to bow to me." The Devil Lord status was no joke. It was second only to the Devil World's Lord Tenmoni. Of course, he couldn't accept such a bow. "I'm bowing to you as a junior, not as the Devil Lord. You don't have to take it to heart." Yi Fan cupped his hands and said to Zhang Xiaoyang. Zhang Xiaoyang smiled in relief. The current Yi Fan was still the Yi Fan from the execution field. He was unruly and did things his own way. Akatsuki greets Sect Master Zhang. Akatsuki, who was wearing a crystal mask, also bowed to Zhang Xiaoyang. Zhang Xiaoyang returned the greeting. "Senior, as the sect master, you must have come here for your disciples, right?" Yi Fan went straight to the point and asked Zhang Xiaoyang. "It's true that good news never leaves the house, but bad news travels 1,000 miles. Even such an embarrassing matter has reached your ears." Zhang Xiaoyang smiled. "That's right. I'm here to find my disciples." Obviously, Yi Fan already knew about the demons in the Li family fort. "What about you?" Zhang Xiaoyang asked in return. "You're here for..." "Senior, I'm sorry, but Hongji and I came to the Treasure Cauldron Mountain for 2 reasons. One is to find out about the snake demon in the mountain, and the other is to find the 9 cauldrons." Yi Fan directly expressed his intentions. Instead of hiding the matter of the 9 cauldrons from Zhang Xiaoyang, it was better to tell him the truth. The reason was simple. If he suspected the existence of the divine cauldron in the treasured cauldron mountain, Zhang Xiaoyang would too. Akatsuki glanced at Yi Fan, but didn't say anything. She didn't understand why Yi Fan would take the initiative to mention the divine cauldron. Snake demon? Divine cauldron? Ha ha! After listening to Yi Fan's words, Zhang Xiaoyang was stunned at first. Then he threw his head back and laughed. "Senior, why are you laughing?" When Yi Fan saw Zhang Xiaoyang laughing, he frowned and asked in puzzlement. "First of all, the monster here is not a snake monster, but a centipede monster. That snake monster is only one of its underlings. Second of all, there's indeed a cauldron in this mountain, but it is not the divine cauldron forged by King Yu in ancient times. Instead, it is the golden cauldron forged by Emperor Huizong of Song in imitation of King Yu." Zhang Xiaoyang stopped laughing and said, "Centipede spirit?" Akatsuki was shocked. "A golden cauldron forged by Emperor Huizong of the Song dynasty?" Yi Fan asked with a frown. "That's right." Zhang Xiaoyang opened his mouth and said, "There are countless examples of emperors imitating King Yu in forging the 9 cauldrons. Wu Ziqian created the 9 cauldrons in the first year of Shengong and placed them in the Ming Hall of Luoyang. Song Huizong also created the 9 cauldrons in the 4th year of Chongning and placed them in the 90% Palace. Hidden in this treasured cauldron mountain is one of the 9 cauldrons forged by Emperor Huizong, the Transient Light Paradise Cauldron. Transient Light Paradise Cauldron. Yi Fan frowned and muttered to himself. Zhang Xiaoyang nodded. "Senior, how do you know that the monster is a centipede monster? And how do you know that the treasure in this treasure cauldron mountain is the Transient Light Paradise Cauldron?" Yi Fan asked Zhang Xiaoyang. "Last night, I used the art of inviting God to summon the mountain god of this mountain. These were things that the mountain god told me personally." Zhang Xiaoyang said to Yi Fan, "That centipede monster has been cultivating for more than 200 years. Dozens of years ago, on a stormy night, this monster failed on the verge of success when it was flying in the sky. It was struck by the last bolt of lightning and revealed its true form. Its cultivation was destroyed, and it fell from the sky to the Li family's fort. Because this monster did not commit too many sins during its cultivation and had done many good deeds, it could be said that it had both merits and demerits. Therefore, the heavens took its conscience into consideration and only destroyed its cultivation and did not take its life, giving it a chance to cultivate again. Unfortunately, this monster's evil aura was too strong. It was neither good nor evil, so it could not help but kill. Chapter 774. You're right. Zhang Xiaoyang nodded. Those people who went up the mountain to search for treasures were indeed killed by this monster. Could it be that the centipede spirit also took a fancy to the spiritual energy on the drifting light cave cauldron cast by Emperor Huizong of Song? So it killed those who went up the mountain to search for treasures? Yi Fan asked with a frown. That drifting light cave cauldron has nothing special other than the 500 kilograms of gold on it as decoration. It also doesn't have any spiritual energy. Zhang Xiaoyang smiled. No spiritual energy? Then why did the centipede spirit start a massacre? Yi Fan asked. He couldn't understand. The reason is very simple. Zhang Xiaoyang said. That drifting light cave cauldron has become the centipede spirit's nest and cultivation place. Those treasure hunters who set their sights on its nest naturally didn't have a good ending. It took the drifting light cave cauldron as its nest. Yi Fan was shocked. This guy really knew how to find a place. The centipede is born in a dark and damp place. Its body has more yin than yang, and the 5 elements lack metal. If it wants to achieve a balance between yin and yang in its body and safely pass through the heavenly tribulation, it must absorb more pure yang, qi, and metal energy of the 5 elements. Zhang Xiaoyang explained. Although the drifting light cave cauldron doesn't have anything special, it's cast from copper and inlaid with gold. This cauldron was cast by Emperor Huizong of Song. Although Emperor Huizong was muddle-headed and tyrannical, he was still the ruler of a country, the Son of Heaven. A cauldron cast by the Son of Heaven naturally contains the purest yang qi of the Emperor. Dragon yang qi plus metal energy of the 5 elements is simply something that the centipede spirit can only come across by chance. Yi Fan frowned and didn't say anything, but still can't kill innocent people. Akatsuki said, with its cultivation, it can totally teach those people a lesson and make them retreat. There's no need to take their lives. When you see that monster later, you can ask it. Zhang Xiaoyang smiled and said to Akatsuki. Akatsuki didn't say anything. Senior, how do you plan to deal with this centipede spirit? Kill him to avenge that disciple of yours? Yi Fan asked Zhang Xiaoyang. My disciple is still alive and well. What's there to take revenge for? Zhang Xiaoyang laughed. What? Yi Fan was stunned when he heard this. Your disciple is still alive? Before I came here, I used a soul-searching technique to search my disciple's soul. I found that although his 3 spiritual and 7 physical souls were a little weak, they were still in his body. Zhang Xiaoyang said, the centipede demon only restrained him and did not take his life. In that case, those monks and Taoist priests who came to subdue the demon are still alive. Yi Fan muttered to himself. Smart. Zhang Xiaoyang smiled at Yi Fan. No matter how bad that centipede demon's temper is, it knows its limits. It's not bold enough to harm a cultivator's life. Senior, how do you plan to deal with this monster? Yi Fan asked Zhang Xiaoyang again. Let's wait and see, Zhang Xiaoyang said with a smile. If it kills too much, it can only be destroyed and enter the cycle of samsara. When Akatsuki heard that, she subconsciously glanced at Yi Fan. Yi Fan had a good impression of the monster and called it a righteous demon. If Zhang Xiaoyang were to kill the monster, it was unknown what he would do. Upon hearing Zhang Xiaoyang's words, Yi Fan's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. Senior, do you know where the monster is now? Yi Fan asked Zhang Xiaoyang. It's daytime now. That fellow doesn't like sunlight. It's currently resting in the transient light grotto heaven cauldron in the mountain. Zhang Xiaoyang turned around and looked up at the mountaintop. Senior, please wait a moment. I'll go and rescue your disciple before capturing that monster. Yi Fan said to Zhang Xiaoyang. As he spoke, he prepared to use his movement technique and soar into the sky. Actually, saving Zhang Xiaoyang's disciple was just a pretense. What Yi Fan really wanted to do was to subdue the centipede spirit in advance and then use some tricks to force it to submit to him. Otherwise, if this fellow offended Zhang Xiaoyang later, he would definitely suffer. For some reason, he felt a sense of sympathy for the centipede spirit's temperament. There's no need. Zhang Xiaoyang raised his arm and blocked Yi Fan. Yi Fan's heart skipped a beat as he looked at Zhang Xiaoyang. Senior, you mean? Yi Fan asked with a frown. What kind of status does this evil creature have to trouble you, the devil monarch, to go personally? Zhang Xiaoyang looked at Yi Fan with a smile and said, I'll let that evil creature come out to see us now. Let come out to see us. Yi Fan and Akatsuki looked at each other. Zhang Xiaoyang smiled slightly and then raised his right arm. He straightened his palm and slowly aimed it at the peak of the treasure cauldron mountain. Buzz. Following Zhang Xiaoyang's thought, golden light suddenly burst out from his palm. Zap, zap, zap. 3 purple lightning bolts crazily swam within the golden brilliance in Zhang Xiaoyang's palm. What powerful lightning bolts! Yi Fan's pupils constricted when he saw this. He was someone who had survived the heavenly tribulation and was very familiar with the aura of purple lightning bolts. And the purple lightning in Zhang Xiaoyang's palm was no different from the lightning bolts. It was rumored that the descendants of celestial master clans could cultivate the purple firmament lightning palm secretly passed down by celestial master Zhang Daoling. From the looks of it, it was true. Akatsuki was also stunned by Zhang Xiaoyang's domineering palm technique when she saw the dazzling golden light and the purple lightning bolts shuttling back and forth. There would always be someone better than you. It was true that there would always be someone better than you. Take Zhang Xiaoyang as an example. In terms of spiritual power, he might be far inferior to Yi Fan, but his Dao techniques were so exquisite that Yi Fan could only look up to him. Both of them had their own strengths, and it was hard to tell who was better. Just as the two of them were in shock, Zhang Xiaoyang made his move. His eyes turned cold as he directly struck out with his palm. Whoosh! A purple lightning bolt, as thick as a bowl, shot out from his palm and went straight to the peak of the treasure tripod mountain. In an instant, the gazebo where the 3 of them were was illuminated by a purple light. Yi Fan had survived the heavenly tribulation and was only shocked by Zhang Xiaoyang's purple lightning. But Red Moon was different. Although her spiritual qi cultivation wasn't the same as before, she was still afraid of violet lightning from the bottom of her heart. So the moment Zhang Xiaoyang struck, Akatsuki instinctively went to Yi Fan's side and held Yi Fan's arm tightly with both hands. She turned her head away and did not dare to look directly at him. Crack! With a thunderous sound, the purple lightning bolt instantly bombarded the peak of the mountain a few hundred feet away. Boom! A huge boulder on the peak of the mountain cracked under the bombardment of Zhang Xiaoyang's purple firmament lightning palm and turned into countless pieces of rock. Clatter! Stone fragments rained down from the sky, as if it was raining stones. Akatsuki saw this and secretly clicked her tongue. It was said that the Zhengyi school was the leader of the Taoist sections. Today, she saw that the rumors were true. Zhang Xiaoyang's casual palm strike had such a shocking might. If he was serious, wouldn't he be able to blast the peak of the treasured cauldron mountain away? Evil creature, show yourself quickly. Zhang Xiaoyang retracted his palm and stood with his hands behind his back as he said loudly, whoosh! As soon as Zhang Xiaoyang's voice fell, more than 10 different colored demonic auras came out from the shrubs, rocks, bushes, and trees of the treasure tripod mountain and rushed into the air. Then they turned back and slowly flew toward the gazebo, where the 3 of them and the fox were. In addition, there were many large and small, strange-looking living creatures that gradually emerged and quickly crawled down the mountain. Among these living creatures, there were toads the size of wash basins, earthworms that looked like long snakes, black spiders that looked like wheels, and an unknown bird with 3 heads. Among all the living creatures, the largest one was a green snake that was as thick as a water tank and had a blood-red tongue. With one sentence from Zhang Xiaoyang, all the demons and monsters on the treasure tripod mountain obediently came down. More than 10 colorful demonic auras slowly landed outside the gazebo and turned into more than 10 people of different ages. They were all monsters with relatively high attainments and could transform into human forms. Greetings, Heavenly Master! After the demons appeared, they all knelt on the ground and kowtowed to Zhang Xiaoyang in the gazebo. At this time, the demons that had not transformed into human form also gathered at the bottom of the stairs and bowed to Zhang Xiaoyang in their own way. "Oh, do you know who I am?" Zhang Xiaoyang asked the demons in a dignified manner. In this world, there is no one else who can use such a thunderous palm technique other than the descendants of Heavenly Master Zhang Daoling. Among the demons, an old man with a white beard said respectfully to Zhang Xiaoyang. This old man was transformed from a ginseng on the treasure tripod mountain. He absorbed the spiritual energy of heaven and earth and gathered the essence of the sun and moon every day. After more than 500 years of cultivation, he reached the state of transforming into human form. "Since you know who I am, you must know why I'm here, right?" Zhang Xiaoyang looked at the demons and continued asking. The demons lowered their heads and did not answer. "Where's that centipede? Why isn't it here?" Zhang Xiaoyang said as he glanced at the green snake that was the largest among the demons. That green snake saw Zhang Xiaoyang staring at it and immediately trembled in fear. The demons looked at each other and did not know how to answer. "Speak." Zhang Xiaoyang's voice started to become cold. "Heavenly Master, it's at..." The ginseng spirit wanted to say, but did not dare to. It started to stammer. "I'm here." Following a mixed male and female voice, a black-purple demonic aura flew up from the mountain and landed on the empty ground in front of the demons. After the demonic aura dispersed, a middle-aged man who looked to be in his 40s appeared out of thin air. The man's face was thin and his skin was sallow. He wore an apricot yellow robe with a white jade hairpin on his head and an oxtail horsetail whisk in his hand. On the chest of his yellow robe, there was a huge Taiji 8 trigrams diagram embroidered. Unlike ordinary people, his eyes were purplish-black and looked very scary. This demon was none other than the centipede spirit. "Greetings, Heavenly Master." The man cupped his hands and bowed to Zhang Xiaoyang and said in a mixed male and female voice, "You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.